Chapter 216. A four-wheeled horse carriage left Sultan City and headed to Banta City on the other side of the road. There were four people sitting across from each other in the horse carriage. Other than Baron Hannes, one of the other three was a young man who was a few years older than Baron Hannes. Another was a beautiful girl who was even younger than Baron Hannes, who wasn't even 20 yet. The last one was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s with a bald head and a bit fat. After the horse carriage drove on the dirt road outside Sultan City for a while, the young man suddenly patted the seat under him and said with a sigh of praise, "After this horse carriage changed to this tire, it really is much better than before. If this invention had appeared earlier, our butts would have suffered less in the past few years." Baron Hannes laughed. "Kennard, do you believe what I said to you now? Not mentioning anything else, just the appearance of this tire can change our lives this much, not to mention all the other new magic machines." The young man called Kennard said with a smile, "I never said that I didn't believe what you said. When I saw those magic machines, I already felt that with the appearance of these magic machines, perhaps it would change the continent. If I didn't have this idea, why did you think I would personally go to Banta City to see it?" Baron Hannes wanted to speak, but the young girl on the side said with a soft snort, "I don't believe that this Sue-E is that powerful. Big brother, Hannes, you all say that he and the new flyer are that powerful, but why do I feel that my life hasn't changed at all? How it was before, it's still the same. You all say that this Sue-E and the new flyer can change the continent, but I don't think so." Baron Hannes and Kennard looked at each other and revealed smiles. "Dear Sophia, you really don't feel that your life hasn't changed at all?" Baron Hannes asked. "Could it be that the bread you eat every day is still made by hand like before? Could it be that when you want to drink hot water, you have someone boil it with firewood? Or to put it more bluntly, it's impossible that you don't even have a magic lamp in your house, right? If your family's life hasn't changed, then I can only say that your family is outdated. It has nothing to do with Sue-E and New Flyer. My family is not behind the times." Sophia forcefully stomped her foot and angrily said, "But our family doesn't need any magic bread maker or magic kettle. As for that magic lamp." At the mention of the magic lamp, Sophia paused, unable to continue. Baron Hannes laughed. "What's wrong with magic lamps? Is it because it's so beautiful that you can't bear to say you don't need it?" Sophia blushed slightly. "What's wrong with me liking its beauty? Besides, the magic lamp is beautiful because it was designed by the elves. It has nothing to do with Sue-E. However, the appearance of the elves has a lot to do with Sue-E. If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't even see a single elf in our Lampari kingdom." Baron Hannes added, "Humph, the elves haven't disappeared. He was just lucky enough to meet them. It doesn't count as any skill," Sophia said in an unconvinced voice. Baron Hannes wanted to keep arguing with Sophia, but Kennard waved his hand at him with a smile. "All right, Hannes, if you keep arguing with her, do you believe that she won't completely hate this Sue-E? I just don't like you discussing this fellow in front of me and praising him so much," Sophia loudly said in an unconvinced voice. "He was just lucky enough to invent a few new things. How is he strong? Because he invented things that other people didn't invent, that means he has abilities that other people don't have, so he's strong," Kennard said with a serious look. "Sophia, no matter what you think of Sue-E, you have to admit this. When other people have abilities that you don't have, you have to learn humbly and not pick on other people's problems. Do you understand? I don't like those ice-cold magic machines." Sophia gave a snort and turned to look out the window. Seeing Sophia's attitude, Kennard could only helplessly give a sigh. He turned to ask Baron Hannes, "I've heard that the Banta Times is already the largest newspaper in Banta City. If they knew that you, the founder, had suddenly returned to Banta City, the Banta Times might have properly reported it." Baron Hannes shook his head with a smile. "How could that be? Although I'm the founder of the Banta Times, the reason why this newspaper could appear was all because of Sue-E. Whether it was the idea of creating the newspaper, the initial funds needed, or even a magic printer used by the newspaper couldn't be separated from him. So to be honest, the founder of the Banta Times was him and not me. Thinking about it now, when this fellow urged me to create the Banta Times, He was just using me. But you were very happy being used, right? Kennard said. Baron Hannes said with a laugh, That's right. No matter when I think of those days, I always feel very happy. So even if I know that he was using me back then, I'm still very grateful to him. If it wasn't for him, I would still be at home all day doing nothing, feeling that the world was very boring. But now, I found something that I'm willing to give everything to. Hearing the true emotions in Baron Hannes' words, even the angry Sophia could not help but turn around and look at Baron Hannes, who had a strange expression on his face, feeling puzzled. Was this really that powerful? He was actually able to change the listless Hannes so much. Humph. He was just lucky. Kennard gave a soft sigh. Hannes, I envy you very much. You can find something that you're willing to give everything to, but I still can't determine what I want to do. Baron Hannes revealed a faint smile. Perhaps you'll be able to find it on this trip to Banda City. Kennard shook his head. When he wanted to say something, the carriage suddenly shook and the words in his throat were forced back. The four people in the carriage frowned. They thought that the road condition had suddenly worsened, but in the next moment, the four of them discovered that the carriage had only shaken for a moment, and then it was moving incomparably smoothly. They didn't feel the slightest bump at all. The four of them were very curious. Kennard couldn't help pulling open the curtains and looking out. He found that the scenery outside was quickly moving backwards. It was clear that the carriage was moving much faster than before. However, the carriage became this fast, and it was moving even more smoothly, which was a bit strange. Kennard and Sophia, who had squeezed over, stuck their heads out the window and looked down at the carriage. The grayish-white flat road was constantly being rolled over by the tires. Looking ahead, one could see a similarly grayish-white straight and wide road extending to the horizon. Countless pedestrians and carriages were rushing on this road, making it seem very lively. This should be the road, right? Kennard pointed at the road the wheels were rolling over as he asked Hannes this. And it should be right. Hannes also stuck his head out of the window on the other side and looked at the flat surface of the road. This is also my first time seeing it. I've only heard about this road from Suyi's letters and the various newspapers, saying how flat it is. Now that I've personally seen it, I found that this road is much smoother than I imagined. It's also far surpassed my imagination, Kennard said with a nod. I originally thought that your Amblemar Times would definitely exaggerate the condition of the road, because I didn't believe that there would be a road in this world that could be so smooth that a carriage wouldn't feel the slightest bump when traveling on it. But now it seems like your report didn't say enough. With this kind of road, it would greatly improve the traffic. Hannes said with a sigh. Before personally seeing it, even I wouldn't have thought of it. You have to know, if this road is completely built, it will connect Banda City and Sultan City, which is over 60 kilometers long. Kennard looked in the direction of Sultan City and found that there was a group of people working on the side of the road in the distance, with a bunch of unknown machines on the side. Those should be workers from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. This road was paid for by the Fersen Carriage Company and built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. It seems like after the Amber Chamber of Commerce built the Falling Rain Road, they gained experience. Now that they were building roads, they were much faster. I thought that this road was twice as wide as the Falling Rain Road, and they would need at least half a year to finish it. But now it seems like they won't even need a month to finish it. In total, it only took a little more than 3 months. Baron Hannes explained. Then isn't this road completely unrelated to the new flyer? Kennard asked in a surprised voice. It can't be said that it's completely unrelated. Look, the various magic machines that the workers are using to build the road were developed by the new flyer. Moreover, this road is made of cement. The most important cement and the steel bars in the road are all products of the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce. Kennard was even more surprised. This means that the new flyer doesn't just produce magic machines. They also produce cement and steel bars. Baron Hannes pointed down. Don't forget, the tires of this horse carriage were also developed by the new flyer. Kennard's expression became a bit strange. This new flyer is actually involved in this many industries. Can they manage it all? Just ask when you see him. Anyway, the new flyer is still fine right now. There aren't any problems. Baron Hannes looked forward and suddenly said with a smile, "All right, you're about to see another novel thing." "What novel thing?" Kennard and Sophia poked their heads out and looked ahead. They saw a small river winding through the road ahead. There was a wide bridge over the river, but on the other side of the bridge, there was a tall building that looked like a door blocking the road. Whether it was the door or the door, there was a long line of horse carriages, like they were waiting for something. Sophia looked around and suddenly clapped her hands. "I know, this is the toll station that many people are cursing, right?" Chapter 217. Even if they were far away from the toll booth, there was still a deep disdain and disgust on Sophia's face. On the other hand, Kennard and Baron Hannes were chatting merrily. They didn't seem to care at all. Instead, they were discussing whether 50 silver coins per carriage was too expensive or too cheap. Seeing the two of them ignore her, Sophia finally couldn't take it anymore and deliberately gave a heavy snort. "Humph! Building roads is for people to use, and they actually want to take money. This is too much." Sophia's eyes popped out, looking like she was filled with righteous indignation. "It's a good thing that you were praising that fellow named Sue E. I've heard that the idea of building toll booths was from him, right? This person is this greedy. He is simply rotten." Baron Hannes and Kennard looked at each other and couldn't help shaking their heads with a smile. "Sophia, I want to ask you a question. The Fersen Carriage Company has invested over 400,000 gold coins in building this road. So if they don't build a toll booth, how will they get this investment back?" Baron Hannes asked. "Why must they get it back?" Sophia said in a loud voice. "Since building roads is a good thing for all these people, why should everyone fight over it? Since the Fersen Carriage Company is willing to pay for it, many people will praise them for doing good thing. Why do they have to build a toll booth and be cursed by all these people?" Kennard gave a sigh and shook his head. "Sophia, you're about to turn 18. You're not young anymore. Can you not think like a child in the future? Even if you're right, if the Fersen Carriage Company didn't build this toll booth, they would have done a good thing and would have received praise from many people. But you can't expect all the companies in our kingdom to be this selfless, right? This is clearly not a realistic thing. If everyone found that there were no benefits in building roads, how many companies do you think would take the initiative to pay for this?" Although Sophia didn't care about worldly matters, she wasn't a fool. Of course, she understood Kennard's reasoning, but she was still a bit unwilling to accept it. 400,000 gold coins is nothing to such a large chamber of commerce. Isn't it better to use it to build a road for everyone to use for free? Now that their Chamber of Commerce's reputation has improved, their business will definitely be better. Money doesn't fall from the sky. What right do you have to ask others to contribute to everyone for no reason?" Kennard said. "The other 400,000 gold coins definitely isn't a small amount. Even if the Fersen Carriage Company is a pretty good company in our kingdom, it would take quite a bit of courage to take out this much money at once to build roads." Speaking of this Fersen Carriage Company's chairman is quite bold, actually choosing to build a road at the same time as the new flyer. Sue E. praised Chairman Pompey in his letter to me. He said that although he was a person who made a fuss easily, his eyes were worthy of praise. Baron Hannes replied with a nod before turning to say to Sophia, "Sophia, you just said that many people have cursed this toll station. But do you know that the one who should be cursed is our honorable king and not the new flyer or the Fersen Carriage Company?" Sophia was stunned. What does this have to do with His Majesty? It isn't His Majesty who wants them to charge. You're right. To be honest, it really is His Majesty who wants them to charge. Kennard followed up. Because building roads and improving the environment of the citizens is something a country's ruler should do. But our kingdom's finances are lacking money right now, and His Majesty can't take out this much money to build roads. But this time, Sue, he can come up with this almost perfect method to solve this problem. To be honest, I really admire him. He just wants to rely on this thing to make money. What is there to admire? Sophia immediately disagreed. If he just wants to make money, this toll wouldn't just be a trivial 50 silver coins per horse carriage. If it was me, I would have raised the price by several times. Because after experiencing the pleasure of riding on the road, I think that no one would be willing to ride on this kind of broken dirt road. Kennard said, Sophia, are you willing? Even though Sophia wanted to continue retorting, they were currently riding a horse carriage on the road. She did not feel any bumps on her buttocks at all, and it was much more comfortable than when they were running on the dirt road. She could not go against her conscience and lie to him. Seeing that Sophia was speechless, Kennard smiled and didn't plan on forcing her to admit her mistake. He turned to the middle-aged man sitting across from him and said, "Uncle Hank, when we return to Ambilmar City, you have to seriously suggest to Father that we build a few roads ourselves. I'm sure that these roads will earn us a lot of money in the future." The middle-aged man smiled and nodded. "I have this idea as well. After personally inspecting the comfort and convenience of these roads, I'm very optimistic about the future of these roads. I even feel that if nothing unexpected happens, in a few years, our Lampari kingdom will be connected by roads. If it really becomes like that, that would be great," Kennard said emotionally. "The roads can provide such a convenient transportation environment. I can totally imagine that when the kingdom is connected with roads everywhere, there will definitely be countless carriages running back and forth on these roads. When that time comes, the entire kingdom will become lively because of this." Hearing Kennard, Baron Hannes, and Uncle Hank discussing business, Sophia felt bored. She pursed her lips and opened the curtains, leaning against the window of the horse carriage to look at the scenery outside. At this time, she felt the benefits of the roads once again. If they were riding on a bumpy dirt road and she dared to lean her head against the window like this, not mentioning how she would be dizzy from the bumps, she might even bite her tongue off from the bumps. But now that she was leaning against the window, she could only feel a slight vibration coming from the window, and it didn't affect her at all. Moving on a flat road, the horse carriage was naturally much faster. Not long after, Sophia saw a large iron sign on the side of the road. The bottom of the sign was blue, but there were 2 rows of large white words written on it. "Welcome to Banda City. Have a good time in Banda City." Sophia was a bit surprised. They had come all the way from Ambilmar City and had passed through several cities, but this was her first time seeing this kind of sign on the side of the road. This sign was so eye-catching that it was hard for people to ignore it. Just based on this, Sophia had a bit of good impression of this Banda City that she had never been to before. After the horse carriage entered Banda City, the scenery on both sides of the road had clearly changed. When they were still in Sultan City, although they could see farmland on both sides of the road, there were still quite a few places that were barren. Although it was much better than the barren lands that Sophia had seen in the other cities of the Lampari Kingdom, compared to Banda City, it was still lacking by quite a bit. When the horse carriage passed by the large blue sign, there was a large patch of golden that came at them. Looking around, the sides of the road were filled with wheat. Because it was already the fall harvest season, the wheat in the fields had all grown heavy ears of wheat. There were endless fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. Sophia was very surprised. When she was studying at the Lampuri Royal Academy, she had taken some political and agricultural classes. She knew that the Lampari Kingdom was lacking in manpower, so they didn't even have enough people to work the fields, so there were many fields that had been barren. This Banda City was clearly in the corner of the kingdom, being a small city, but it could actually open up all the fields under its name, letting her see such a magnificent harvest scene. Sophia thought that this was just a special phenomenon at first, but when the horse carriage continued heading in the direction of Banda City, she found that the fields on both sides of the road didn't stop at all. Looking into the distance, it was like all the places in Banda City had been opened up and planted with wheat. This much wheat, it can't even be harvested, right? Sophia couldn't help muttering to herself. "Why can't we finish harvesting?" Baron Hannes asked with a smile. Baron Hannes said with a smile, "Don't forget that Banda City is the headquarters of the New Flyer. There are already agricultural magic machines here. Not to mention the fields in Banda City. I've even heard Sue say that some farmers in Banda City have established a small company that specializes in harvesting for others. They're planning on going to the surrounding cities to harvest for others during the fall harvest." "It's the New Flyer again," Sophia muttered. She turned to look out the window again, but she was so angry that she didn't want to pay attention to Baron Hannes. But when she looked out the window, she saw that there was an even larger iron plate by the side of the road in front of her. And on this huge metal plate, there was a drawing of a beautiful woman with bright eyes, white teeth, and a picturesque face. There was a pearl necklace with pearls of the same size around the beauty's neck, and there were two sparkling amethyst earrings hanging from her ears. Although the necklace and earrings were finely made, and one could tell that they were precious jewels with a single glance, they couldn't hide the glory of this beauty at all. It could even be said that because these two jewels were on this beauty's neck and ears, they became this dazzling. What is this? Sophia couldn't help pointing at the large iron plate in surprise as she asked this. Baron Hannes poked his head out from beside Sophia and took a look, looking a bit confused. Serene jewels, to make a woman even more dazzling? Strange, young Miss Steele isn't advertising for the new flyer. Rather, she's advertising for Serene. What's going on here? Young Miss Steele? Is she the beauty on the painting? Sophia asked in a curious voice. Right? Isn't she very beautiful? Baron Hannes said. Sophia looked at the iron plate that was coming closer, and she couldn't help nodding. She really is too beautiful. How good would it be if I was as beautiful as her? But Hannes, this is a painting. It's impossible for a real person to be this beautiful, right? No. I can guarantee you that young Miss Steele's real person is even more beautiful than the painting. Baron Hannes looked at Sophia, who didn't seem to believe him, and a teasing smile suddenly appeared on his face. Also, I want to tell you something about young Miss Steele. What is it? Young Miss Steele is now Su Yi's girlfriend. Sophia's expression immediately became very interesting. Chapter 2:18. The wheat fields weren't the only thing that set Banta City apart from other cities. Sophia's group of 4 walk along the road, and not only did they see that there were many farmers using the magic harvesters to quickly and efficiently harvest wheat, they also saw that there were many beautiful brick buildings that were being built in places that weren't wheat fields. These small brick buildings were exquisitely designed. They were connected together in rows, forming a beautiful and spectacular residential area. Other than this, they also saw that there were countless workers on both sides of the 50-meter-wide sandy river outside Banta City. They kept piling up bricks and other things by the river, but they didn't know what they were doing. They also saw a lot of huge factories rising from the ground on seemingly barren land. At the same time, many people were busy at the construction sites. When the horse carriage finally entered the gates of Banta City, seeing how lively the horse carriage was, Sophia couldn't help being surprised as she called out, "Why are there so many people here? Isn't Banta City just a small city? Why do I feel that there are more people here compared to our Anvil Mars city?" Baron Hannes looked outside the horse carriage and said with a smile, "A small city with 50,000 people suddenly has over 200,000 people. It would be strange if there weren't more people." Of course, in reality, Banta City doesn't have as many people as our Anvil Mars city. You have to know that according to the last count, Anvil Mars city has over 500,000 people. But 200,000 isn't a small sum. Sophia was still very surprised. Sophia was still a bit surprised. A city with this many people, it can be considered a large city in the kingdom. Hannes, why are there suddenly so many people in Banta City? The reason is very simple. It's because there are many jobs in Banta City. It can be said that no matter who comes here, they can find a job that satisfies them. You have to know that even if the large companies of Banta City hire a normal worker without any skills, the lowest wage they can give is 10 gold coins a month. Hannes replied, 10 gold coins a month? Sophia thought about it before turning to Kinnard to ask, "Is that a lot?" "A lot. Because even if it's a normal worker in Anvil Mars City, they only get around 6 gold coins a month." Kinnard nodded. "So it isn't strange that there are so many people in Banta City. Sophia, you should know that there are many people in our kingdom who can't even eat their fill. They are very satisfied with a job. If they can get a salary of 10 gold coins a month, it would be a very satisfying thing for many people." Sophia thought about it and felt it was a bit strange. This isn't right. Anvil Mars City is the kingdom's capital. The workers' wages should be the highest. Banta City's companies give their workers such a high wage. Do they have too much money? You should ask Su Yi. Su Yi shook his head, because this fellow was the first to give high wages to his workers. So the other companies in Banta City had no choice but to give their workers the same high wages. Otherwise, their workers would be taken away by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. How is it related to this fellow again? Sophia grumbled unhappily. Sophia grumbled in dissatisfaction. Is everything in Banta City related to this fellow? Hannes laughed. You're right. No matter what you see in Banta City right now, perhaps it will be related to him at least a bit. Who told New Flyer to have too much influence in Banta City? Humph. I don't believe it. Sophia pouted her lips and looked out the window. She suddenly pointed at a store on the street and shouted, Look, this is related to him, right? Hannes looked in the direction Sophia was pointing at and found that it was a women's clothing store. Looking at the sign of the women's clothing store, Hannes broke out in laughter. Ha, Sophia, I'm very sorry, you're wrong again. Although this store sells women's clothing, the clothes in this store are all from the Armani Chamber of Commerce. New Flyer has just developed the magic textile machine for the Armani Chamber of Commerce. So the clothes of the Armani Chamber of Commerce are all made from the magic textile machine. Tell me, is this place related to Sue E? Sophia's eyes opened wide as she stared at the women's clothing store. Only when it disappeared from the window did she indignantly turn around. She glared at Hannes and Kennard, who were secretly laughing, before saying with a cold snort, This Sue E, he's simply too hateful. Why is he everywhere? Kennard revealed a faint smile. Sophia, do you really hate him that much? Then I'll tell you some very unfortunate news. If nothing unexpected happens, you'll see him in the flesh in 20 minutes. Hashtag 20 minutes later, the horse carriage, the four of them were sitting and stopped in a quiet alley on the west side of the city. The four of them got out of the horse carriage, and Sophia looked up at the beautiful 2-story wooden house in front of her, looking a bit surprised. The place this hateful fellow lives in isn't bad. But since he has this much money, why doesn't he buy a manor outside the city? It's much better than living here, right? Sue is actually a very thrifty fellow. From what I can see, he doesn't care about his basic necessities, so he's normally very thrifty. Hannes said he lived in a very shabby house before, so I think that if it wasn't for Vivian, he wouldn't have thought of moving to this small house. Who is Vivian? It sounds like a girl's name. Doesn't he have young Miss Steele as his girlfriend? Why did he buy this small house? Because of Vivian. Could it be that he's actually a very bad fellow? It's not enough for him to have a beautiful girlfriend like young Miss Steele, and he's also entangled with a girl named Vivian? Sophia immediately asked. Hannes didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He couldn't help patting Sophia's head and reprimanding her. What are you thinking? Vivian is a slave he bought. She's only 15 this year, not even as old as you. He has always treated her like a younger sister. He treats her like a younger sister now, but maybe in 2 years he won't. Sophia muttered softly. Seeing Kennard glare at her, she quickly shut her mouth and didn't dare to discuss this topic anymore. But in her heart, she had automatically judged Sue E as a scum who liked to play with female slaves and had a foot in 2 boats at the same time. Hannes didn't care what Sophia was thinking. He saw a shadow flashing on the 2nd floor. It seemed like someone was home, so he went up and knocked on the door. Not long after, the sound of footsteps came from inside the door. The door opened wide, and a youthful and beautiful face appeared. Hey, Vivian, I haven't seen you for a few months. You seem to have grown up quite a bit, and you're also much prettier than before. Hannes waved his hand in greeting. Vivian looked at Hannes and instantly remembered him. She quickly bowed respectfully to him. Greetings, Lord Baron. You suddenly came today. Is there something you need from my master? Of course. If I wasn't looking for him, why would I come all the way here from Anvilmar City? Hannes replied with a smile. He turned his body to let Vivian see the 3 people behind him. Go and inform Sue E that I brought 3 friends to visit him. All right, Sir Baron, please come in with your 3 friends. I'll tell the master that you're here. Vivian led the 4 of them to the living room on the 1st floor and sat down. She then poured tea for the 4 of them before excusing herself and trotting upstairs. Seeing Vivian's figure disappear around the corner on the 2nd floor, Sophia stopped looking at her and turned to look at Hannes. She softly praised, She's Vivian? Why do I feel that she doesn't look like a slave at all? Oh, Why do you think so? Hannes was a little curious. Because she's so beautiful and has such a good temperament. She's like a young lady from a noble family. How could she be a slave? Could it be that she's actually the daughter of a ruined, noble family? That can't be right. No matter how ruined they are, they wouldn't let their own daughter become a slave, right? Sophia was puzzled. It's not as complicated as you think. Vivian used to be a slave. The reason why she became like this is because Sue bought her and carefully nurtured her. When I first saw her last year, she was just an unremarkable little girl. I didn't think that in less than a year, she would become so beautiful. Even her temperament has become so good. I have to say, Sue was very willing to spend money on her education. Hannah said, spending so much money on a female slave must be to satisfy his bad taste. Sophia pouted. Sophia, watch your words. Kennard suddenly shouted in a low voice. If you continue to have such an attitude, you can go back with Uncle Hank tomorrow. Don't stay here anymore. Kennard actually doted on Sophia a lot. He rarely spoke to her in such a serious tone, but Sophia knew that once his tone became like that, it meant that he was really angry. Thus, Sophia could only stick out her tongue obediently. She didn't say anything else. After a while, 2 footsteps, one light and one heavy, could be heard on the stairs. The light one was obviously Vivian, who had just gone up, and the heavy one was naturally Sue. Hannes, Kennard, and Hank all stood up at the same time. Sophia was originally sitting and sipping her tea silently. She only woke up when she noticed the movements of the 3. She quickly put down her teacup and stood up obediently, looking at the stairs. Even though Sophia had heard the name Sue from Hannes and Kennard countless times, she had a rough understanding of this person from their conversations. Furthermore, she had formed a certain impression of Sue. However, no matter what, it couldn't be compared to seeing him in person. Sophia opened her eyes wide, her face filled with anticipation and curiosity. A pair of feet first appeared from the corner of the stairs, followed by a pair of long legs wearing ordinary cotton pants. Then, a rather large but skinny upper body wearing an ugly blue linen shirt appeared. Finally, the face was revealed. Sophia glanced over and was instantly disappointed. Chapter 219. Although Sophia had developed an inexplicable dislike and disgust for Sue because she had heard Hannes and Kennard constantly discussing and praising Sue in the eyes of a young lady like Sophia. Even if he was a great villain, he should still be an awe-inspiring and handsome existence. After all, no matter how much Sophia disliked Sue, she had to admit that he was a very capable and powerful man. Otherwise, Hannes and Kennard would not have praised him so much. Since he was such a capable and powerful man, even if he was not handsome, he should at least be domineering and mighty. Otherwise, how could he match up to his abilities? However, when she saw Sue, Sophia realized that all her fantasies about Sue were instantly shattered. Although, to be honest, Sue was considered handsome just based on his face. When he put on this set of clothes that didn't show off his figure and looked incomparably vulgar, it made him look very normal. He wouldn't stand out at all if he was thrown into a crowd. What made Sophia even more unbearable was that this fellow looked as if he had not bathed for a few days. Not only was his hair disheveled like a bird's nest, but his hair and face were also stained with countless ink-like things. He looked extremely dirty and messy. Furthermore, his lips and face were deathly pale, without any trace of blood. In addition, he had 2 large dark circles under his eyes, which made him look even more listless and dispirited. However, what made Sophia feel strange was that even though his eyes were covered by 2 obvious dark circles, and she could clearly see traces of blood vessels in his eyes were still emitting an intimidating glow. Just one look was enough to make one not want to shift their gaze away. This person must be very capable. Sophia could not help but think to herself. Seeing Sue in this state, Hannes was first shocked, but then came to a realization. He laughed heartily as he walked over and patted Suyi's shoulder. He asked, "Hey, Sue, have you been researching something new these few days? Can you tell me what it is? Let me be happy in advance." Sue used his fingers to pinch the bridge of his nose and recovered a little. He looked at Hannes and smiled. Why are you here again? Why didn't you inform me in advance so that I could be prepared? After saying that, he looked at the other 3 people in the living room and nodded to them. Hello. Since you are friends of Hannes, there is no need to stand on ceremony. Let's sit down and chat. The 4 of them sat down in the living room again. He took the hot towel from Vivian and applied it to his face. Then, he forcefully circulated the mana in his body and cast a mental stimulation spell on himself. Finally, he managed to recover his mental state. Just like Hannes Hahn said, he had been working on solving a problem for the past 3 days. He had not slept more than 8 hours in the past 3 days. Now, he was indeed very tired. And Vivian, he had Vivian as Vivian, and in Vivian as Vivian. Chairman Sue Vivian. Seeing that he was ready and looking over, Kennard took the initiative to extend his hand and smiled. Please allow me to introduce myself. I am Kennard Emma. This is my sister, Sophia Emma. And this is Hank Wilson. Emma? He shook hands with Kennard. He thought for a moment and continued. Are you related to the Emma family? Kennard showed a faint smile. The current patriarch of the Emma family is our father. He revealed an as expected expression. He looked at Hank Wilson and said, Then if my guesses aren't wrong, this Mr. Wilson should be an important member of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, right? Chairman Sue Vivian's reaction is indeed fast. Kennard laughed. Yes, Uncle Hank is one of the vice presidents of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. He is in charge of purchasing goods for the Chamber of Commerce. Purchasing goods? He couldn't help but look at Hank Wilson. The reason why he could mention the Walmart Chamber of Commerce immediately after hearing the surname Emma was because many people in the Lampari Kingdom knew that the Emma family was not only a first-rate noble family in the kingdom, but also the owner of the largest grocery business in the kingdom, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. This Hank Wilson was walking together with the son and daughter of the Emma family head, and they seemed to be very close. Moreover, he had the unique shrewd aura of a merchant. Clearly, he was related to the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. The Walmart Chamber of Commerce's main business was selling groceries, so purchasing goods was obviously a very important part of the business. Hank Wilson was in charge of this part, so his position in the Walmart Chamber of Commerce was probably much higher than the other vice presidents. Of course, if his position wasn't high enough, how could he be called uncle by the son of the Emma family head? Hello, Chairman Sue. Wilson reached his hand out to He shook his hand before asking Kennard. I wonder, young Master Emma came to Banta City with His Excellency Baron this time to find me for something? Kennard waved his hand and said with a smile, Chairman Sue, you don't need to be this courteous. Hannes and I have been good friends since we were young, and since you have a good relationship with him, then please treat me as a normal friend. The reason I came to Banta City this time was to be honest, just to see you. See me? He was a bit confused. He looked at Sophia, who kept looking at him with a strange gaze, and said with a smile, Is there something to see about me? Of course. Kennard nodded affirmatively. He gave a certain nod. Even in Anvilmar City, I often hear news about the new flyer. Moreover, Hannes often mentions you and the new flyer in front of me. So after hearing him talk about it for a while, I'm very curious. Just what kind of person was Chairman Sue? To be able to make a proud fellow like Hannes praise him like this. I wanted to rest during this time, and Hannes was also coming to Banta City to see you, so I took this chance to come with him. He gave a slight nod, showing that he understood. After thinking about it, he asked, Then young Master Emma. All right, I'll directly teach you, Kennard. Kennard, you came with young Miss Sophia and Mr. Wilson this time. What did you want to see? Actually, on the way here, we saw quite a bit. Kennard's face was filled with praise. It has to be said, I'm very surprised by the changes in Banta City. In the past, 13 years ago, I came to Banta City with my father. The impression that Banta City gave me back then was that it was a peaceful, but remote and backward small city. But after coming here this time, I've found that there are such shocking changes in Banta City, which really surprised me. Sui said with a faint smile, Actually, Banta City's renovation project has just begun. If you came 2 years later, I guarantee that Bana City would have changed so much that you wouldn't be able to recognize it. I believe, Kennard said with a nod, Banta City can attract all these people to come here and work for it, so it isn't strange for there to be changes. Chairman Sue, on the way here, I heard Hannah say that Banta City's renovation project was proposed by you to Count Samo and that you and the new flyer are mainly responsible for this matter. Sue, he shook his head. Not completely. I just gave a small suggestion to Count Samo, but the one who decided to renovate Banta City was still Samo Count Samo. Other than that, our company is only responsible for providing some materials and magic machines. The one who really does this is the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Oh, Kennard's expression was one of disbelief, but he didn't keep asking. After pausing for a bit, he continued, Chairman Sue, can you agree to a request of mine? Please speak. I'm very curious about you and your new flyer. I want to see how you and your new flyer can change Banta City. So, in the next few days, can you allow me to stay by your side and observe how you and the new flyer work? Sue E. was surprised before turning to look at Hannes on the side. Kennard's request was the same as the request Hannes made last year. This fellow wouldn't be a disciple taught by Hannes, right? Hannes spread his hands with an innocent look, showing that it wasn't related to him. Seeing that Sue E. didn't immediately agree, Kennard continued, Chairman Sue, please be assured. I just want to take a look. I don't have any other intentions. I promise that I definitely won't interfere with your work with the new flyer. Moreover, unless you agree, I definitely won't look at things that I shouldn't see. Sue E. thought about it and felt that this matter was a bit troublesome. The current Frestec Chamber of Commerce was different from when Hannes came last year. There were many things that Sue E. needed to do that involved secrets, so if Kennard was always by his side, there would be many times when it would be inconvenient. Chairman Sue, I'm different from young Master Kennard. I came to Banta City to see you this time to discuss the possibility of our Walmart Chamber of Commerce cooperating with your new flyer, so you don't need to worry about me. Hank Wilson on the side suddenly spoke up. These words seemed like he was trying to get rid of this relationship, but after Kennard's request, the meaning was clear. Sue, he thought about it, and after hesitating a bit, he nodded at Kennard. All right, but Kennard, you have to promise me that you will listen to my arrangements when you are by my side. Do you understand? Sophia couldn't help glaring at him. Wasn't this Sue E. too arrogant? He was just the chairman of a small company, and he actually dared to talk to Big Brother like this. He really didn't know what was good for him. Kennard immediately used his eyes to stop Sophia, who was about to speak. He said to Sue E. with a smile, Of course. I just want to take a look. As for the specifics, I'll listen to Chairman Sue. Chapter 220. Sue E. brought Kennard to his first job. It wasn't the Academy of Magic's Magic Array research, the Magic Machine Workshop research, or the production of the factory, but rather he brought him to a large piece of farmland on the outskirts. This was the fall harvest season, so Banta City wasn't an exception. They were busy with the fall harvest like last year. But it was different from the fall harvest of last year, where everyone worked in the fields. Because the new Flyers agricultural magic machines were popular in Banta City this year, and because of the farmer support plan, many normal farmers had some agricultural magic machines. So all the fall harvest in Banta City was done by the agricultural magic machines. Not only did it save quite a bit of manpower, it didn't delay any projects in or out of the city, and it was much more efficient compared to last year. Sue E. brought Kennard to the territory of a baron to the north of the city. When the two of them arrived, there were already several dozen small magic harvesters that were quickly harvesting a piece of farmland. In the blink of an eye, one would discover that a large piece of wheat had disappeared from the farmland, and bags of wheat had appeared beside the farmland. Hey, Baron Nazar, it seems like we should be able to finish harvesting today, right? Sue E. called out to a middle-aged man who was around 40 years old, standing by the side of the field. Baron Nazar turned to see Sue E., and his smile became even brighter as he said with a nod, That's right. It seems like there's no problem with finishing the harvest today. This is all thanks to the help of Chairman Sue's agricultural magic machines. Otherwise, even if I invited several hundred people, I wouldn't be able to finish it all in a single day. He revealed a faint smile and accepted Baron Nazar's praise without any politeness. He looked at the magic harvesters that were busy in the fields and asked, "Are there any problems with these machines?" "There's been no problem." Baron Nazar shook his head. Baron Nazar shook his head. Then again, even if there's a small problem, with Chairman Cantona and his subordinates here, they can take care of it themselves. After pausing, Baron Nazar asked in a strange voice, "Chairman Sue, why did you suddenly come here? And these two are—" Seeing Baron Nazar's eyes fall onto Kennard and Sophia, who were looking at the fields, Sue introduced them. "These two are Baron Hannah's friends. They came here from Anvilmar City to play this time. I came this time to discuss something with Chairman Cantona." "Is it related to him bringing people to another city to help with the fall harvest?" He has many agricultural magic machines this time going to a city far away. So there are many things he needs to pay attention to, so I have to remind him." Baron Nazar couldn't help but say, "You could just send someone to inform him about these things. Why do you have to come here personally?" "There are many things to pay attention to, so it's hard to explain if I send someone over." He shook his head. "Then there's no need for you to come here. You just need to inform him and have him come find you. You are the new Flyers chairman. You don't need to take care of this small matter yourself." Baron Nazar didn't seem to agree with Su Yi's methods. Su Yi gave a shrug and said with a faint smile, "Customers are gods. Since Chairman Cantona has bought our new Flyers products, our company has to provide services for them. There is no exception to this, even if I am the chairman." "All right, Chairman Su, my family has bought many products from your company, so I'm also your customer, which means I'm a god. Like this, can I call you to my house to provide services at any time?" Baron Nazar said with a smile. Su Yi of course knew that Baron Nazar was joking, so he replied with a faint smile, "It's a pity, Baron Nazar. Our company's after-sale service is divided into grades, so there are very few things that need me as the chairman to personally come out. I think you won't have that chance." Baron Nazar laughed before pointing at a piece of farmland to the right. "All right, go find Chairman Cantona. He's right there." Su Yi nodded before turning to ask Kennard, "Do you want to see how I talk to Chairman Cantona?" Kennard shook his head. "The matter you're talking about should involve some secrets of your company, so I won't follow you." "There aren't any secrets, but it's fine if you don't follow. The fields are dirty, so the two of us don't mind, but it's not convenient for young Miss Sophia to go down." Su Yi nodded before heading in the direction Baron Nazar had pointed at. After Su Yi left, there was only Baron Nazar, Kennard, and Sophia left by the fields. Baron Nazar curiously looked over the two of them. Su Yi said that these two were Baron Hannah's friends, but Baron Hannah wasn't here. Why did the two of them come with Su Yi? Feeling Baron Nazar's gaze, Kennard looked away from the magic harvesters in the field. He nodded at Baron Nazar with a faint smile and gave a simple self-introduction. Then he pointed at Su Yi, who was talking to a farmer in the distance, and asked, "Your Excellency Baron, does Chairman Su often personally take care of these things?" Baron Nazar shook his head. "You heard what he said just now. There aren't many things that he needs to personally take care of right now. New Flyer has many things to do right now, and if he personally takes care of everything, it wouldn't be enough even if he was split into 10. Kennard nodded before asking, "Then can you tell me, what does Chairman Cantona do? Why does he need Chairman Su to personally take care of some things this time?" Baron Nazar looked at Kennard with a strange gaze, not understanding why he was interested in these things. But after thinking about it, he still replied, "Cantona, actually he was a normal farmer from a village outside the city. After New Flyer released the Farmer Support Plan last year, he participated in it and earned a bit of money. Then he gathered a group of farmers who also participated in the plan and had some agricultural magic machines to form a company, specializing in helping other people harvest their crops. Then this Cantona really has a mind for business." Kennard praised. "Hey, this fellow's mind is indeed very flexible. He isn't like those normal farmers." Baron Nazar nodded. "As for why Chairman Su personally came to take care of him, it's probably like Chairman Su just said, there are too many things to pay attention to, so it wouldn't be clear if someone else came. Then again, Cantona's idea of going to other cities to harvest crops was a suggestion from Chairman Su, so of course Chairman Su would pay more attention to this matter. It was Chairman Su who suggested that they bring these agricultural magic machines to other cities to help with the harvest. Kenner was a bit surprised. I thought that Chairman Cantona thought of this himself, so I admired him for having such a good idea. Baron Nazar laughed. I already said that Cantona was just a normal farmer before. It's already good that he could think of uniting a group of farmers to form a company. How could he think that far? Before he wanted to do these things in Urbana City, Karma City, and Sultan City, but then Chairman Su reminded him that he could receive more business if he went to further cities, so he made this decision. In terms of foresight, how could he compare to Chairman Su? Kennard couldn't help asking, "Your Excellency, Baron, you seem to admire Chairman Su very much?" "Of course," Baron Nazar said matter-of-factly. Baron Nazar said with a natural look, "Chairman Su has only established New Flyer for a bit over a year, but he has already developed New Flyer into such a powerful company. Just this alone is very powerful. Moreover, because of him, our Banta City has undergone such a large change in a single year. So many people's lives have become better because of him. I'm not clear if you ask me, but if you ask the farmers outside Banta City, I guarantee that they will admire Chairman Su even more than me. For example, if you ask Cantona, do you believe that he will praise Chairman Su to the heavens in front of you?" Kennard gave a slight nod. He looked at Su Yi, who was still talking to Cantona in the distance, and narrowed his eyes, falling into deep thought. Even Sophia on the side couldn't help taking a few more looks at Su Yi. After looking for a bit, she gave a snort and turned her head, looking in another direction. After around 20 minutes, Su Yi came back. After greeting Baron Nazar, he left with Kennard and Sophia, taking a horse carriage to Santon Manor. When Su Yi's but had just touched the stool, several chairmen of small companies in the Santon Industrial District came to him. They wanted to discuss with Su Yi how they wanted to expand their production and how they were prepared to buy several production magic machines from New Flyer. This naturally wasn't a difficult matter. Su Yi had asked them about last month's production and sales, so after knowing that they had a large amount of orders, he agreed. But when these chairmen mentioned that they wanted to produce more parts and wanted New Flyer to provide them with the corresponding production magic machines, as well as instructing them on how to produce them, Su Yi rejected them. There's a saying in my hometown. It's called biting off more than you can chew. In my opinion, although the quality of your parts isn't bad and have reached the standard, there's still a lot of room for improvement. For example, Chairman Beta's bearing discs. Although they can be used, the size of each hole on the discs isn't the same. Last time we tested them, the largest error was 3 millimeters. Su Yi said in a serious voice. Chairman Beta, who was called out by Su Yi, scratched his head and said in an embarrassed voice, "I'll have the workers pay attention when I go back." Su Yi nodded. "Pay attention to raising the level of the components you make. This is more important than you making more components. You should know very well that the better the quality of the parts, the more orders you will get. Even the price will be raised accordingly." Chairman Beta, if your bearing discs can have an error of less than a millimeter, then when our Frestec Chamber of Commerce purchases them, we can add an extra silver coin to the original price. Chairman Beta's eyes lit up. "Really?" Su Yi looked at him, smiled, and didn't answer. Chairman Beta immediately slapped his own mouth and said, "Bah, has Chairman Su ever gone back on his words? I'm just talking nonsense." "Okay, Chairman Su, since you agreed, then I'll work hard when I go back. I must keep the error within 1 millimeter and satisfy you." Su Yi nodded with a smile. "I'll wait for your good news." Seeing that Su Yi agreed to Chairman Beta's condition, the other chairmen of the small chambers of commerce didn't want to be left behind. They all made the same request to Su Yi. Su Yi naturally didn't refuse them, as long as these small chambers of commerce could improve the quality of their parts. He wouldn't be stingy with the price increase. More importantly, he hoped to create a competitive atmosphere among these small chambers of commerce. This way, they would be urged to do their best to improve their craftsmanship. For the industrial system, the craftsmanship of the parts processing industry was as important as the craftsmanship of the materials, especially at this stage where high-precision CNC machines hadn't appeared yet. Chapter 2:21. When Kennard and Sophia returned to the residence that Baron Hannes had prepared for them at night, they only felt incomparably tired. Kennard was a bit better, but when Sophia took off her shoes, both of her feet were slightly swollen. Looking at her feet that were a size bigger, Sophia couldn't help but complain. Is this Sue-E trying to torment us on purpose? He's been running around all day and doesn't even have time to rest. He even has to talk about work while eating. Isn't he tired? Although Kennard also felt tired, he was much better than Sophia. He sat down beside her and smiled. This isn't strange. For a new flyer to be able to develop so quickly, Sue-E is the main reason. It's not hard to imagine why he's so busy. But isn't this a bit too exaggerated? Sophia mumbled. I don't believe that he'll be so busy every day that he can't even eat properly. If it continues like this, I think he'll die from exhaustion sooner or later. I think you're the one who's exaggerated. Kennard smiled as he knocked Sophia's head. Chairman Sue must pay a lot of attention to his training. That's why he's so energetic. How could he die from exhaustion so easily? Also, don't you think that it's very interesting to be by his side today? Not only did we hear the words customers are gods, we also learned the new knowledge of millimeters. Also, we saw so many different kinds of people and saw all kinds of methods he uses to solve problems. I feel that today's day is more meaningful than the month we spent in Anvilmar City. That's what you think. I also followed because I wanted to see the legendary elves. In the end, I didn't see a single elven after the entire day, so today was completely meaningless to me. Sophia pouted. Don't worry. Didn't Chairman Sue say that the 100 elven workers have been sent to New Flyer's production base in the Falling Rain Valley? He'll go to the Falling Rain Valley sooner or later. You'll definitely be able to see it if you go with him. Kennard comforted her. Then I'll go with him when he goes to the Falling Rain Valley. From tomorrow onwards, I won't be following him. I'm so tired today. Sophia laid down on the bed as if she was too lazy to move. Seeing his sister's lazy appearance that she would never show to outsiders, Kennard shook his head with a smile and lowered his head to look at the floor. In the living room downstairs, Hank Wilson was having a discussion with Sue-E. Chairman Sue, I'm representing our Walmart Chamber of Commerce this time to discuss cooperating with your new flyer. I wonder what Chairman Sue thinks about this. Hank Wilson asked. Sue-E gave a slight nod. The Walmart Chamber of Commerce is a first-class company in our Lampari Kingdom. To be able to set your eyes on our new flyer and want to cooperate with us, that is our honor. Only, how are you planning on cooperating with us? I think that Chairman Sue should know that our Walmart Chamber of Commerce is mainly in the business of selling groceries. Right now, in every city of the kingdom, there are large grocery stores opened by our company that contain all kinds of products. This time, we want to cooperate with your new flyer because we hope that your company's household magic machines can appear in these stores. What do you think, Chairman Sue? Sue-E was silent for a bit before asking. This means that your Walmart Chamber of Commerce is planning on purchasing the household magic machines produced by our new flyer and selling them in the stores under your name? It will be handled the same as the other groceries in your stores. Is that what you mean? Right, that's what it means. Hank Wilson said with a smile. Chairman Sue, forgive me for being direct, but your new flyer has only been established for a short time, and you haven't established your own sales channels in the kingdom. I can proudly say that our Walmart Chamber of Commerce has the most complete sales channels in the kingdom. There is no other company that can compare. If you choose to cooperate with our Walmart Chamber of Commerce, I can guarantee that your new flyer's products will appear in every city of the kingdom in the shortest amount of time. I think that like this, your sales volume will greatly increase. Do you think I'm right? Very right. Sue-E gave a nod. My biggest headache right now is indeed the problem of sales channels. Right now, the markets in Banna City and the surrounding cities are almost saturated, so the sales volume of our company's household magic machines have already decreased. I've been working hard to solve this problem and have thought about cooperating with your company, but I felt that you wouldn't like our small company, so I chose to give up. I never thought that you would take the initiative to come to me. Wilson laughed before waving his hand and saying, Chairman Sue, you don't need to be too modest. Your new flyer is very famous in the kingdom, and His Majesty has even praised your company. So how could our Walmart Chamber of Commerce not like you? After pausing, he said, "This means that Chairman Su has decided to cooperate with us? Of course, why wouldn't I agree to something that benefits both of us?" Su, he immediately said with a smile. "All right, this is the cooperation plan I brought. Chairman Su, please take a look." Seeing that Su E agreed, Wilson took out a document from his bag for Su E. Su E took it, and after seriously looking it over, he slightly knit his brows. In this plan, the Walta Chamber of Commerce had indeed proposed a cooperation with New Flyer, but in terms of the cooperation model, Su E was very dissatisfied. According to the plan, after New Flyer chose to cooperate with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, not only did they have to provide the household magic machines that the Walmart Chamber of Commerce needed, they also had to give them a discount on the price. Although it was an unwritten rule of the market to give a discount on large purchases, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's request was just too excessive. They actually wanted New Flyer to give them a 30% discount on the price of their products. This meant that with the current 30 gold coins price of a variable temperature magic air conditioner, if New Flyer sold it to the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, they would only be able to set the price at 21 gold coins. That was an entire 9 gold coins less. Even if New Flyer's cost of producing a variable temperature magic air conditioner was less than 10 gold coins, they could still earn over 10 gold coins from one unit. But this meant that they would suddenly lose half their profits. So how could Su E accept this? Not to mention that the reason why New Flyer's household magic machines had such a high profit was because there weren't any strong competitors. According to Su Yi's plan, there would be many magic machine companies that could compete with New Flyer in the Lampari Kingdom. At that time, the profits of household magic machines would be as low as on Earth. If they kept giving a 30% discount, New Flyer would even suffer a loss. Su E put down the plan, and after thinking for a bit, he asked Wilson, "Vice Chairman Wilson, I want to ask, is this your final decision?" Vice Chairman Wilson shook his head. "Of course not. The so-called plan is just a plan." "Chairman Su, is there anything you're not satisfied with? If there is, please tell me directly. I came this time to discuss this with you. Instead of asking me what I'm not satisfied with, it's better to ask me what I'm satisfied with," Su E said without any politeness. "To be honest, Vice Chairman Wilson, I'm very dissatisfied with this plan. I even think that based on this plan, your Walmart Chamber of Commerce doesn't have any sincerity in cooperating with our New Flyer." Vice Chairman Wilson knit his brows. "Chairman Su, why do you think this? Our Walmart Chamber of Commerce is very sincere in cooperating with you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have specially come here. I even brought young Master Kennard and young Miss Sophia here." Su E shook his head. "Let's not talk about why Kennard and young Miss Sophia are here. Just based on this plan, Vice Chairman Wilson, do you understand the meaning of a 30% discount?" Wilson revealed an understanding look as he said with a smile, "So Chairman Su isn't satisfied with the price. This is simple. We can discuss this. Of course, our Walmart Chamber of Commerce also needs to make money, so I hope that Chairman Su won't make excessive requests." "Excessive?" Su E slightly knit his brows. Actually, what he wasn't satisfied with the most about this plan wasn't the price or priority. Rather, it was the arrogant attitude of the Wilson Chamber of Commerce from beginning to end. There were many clauses in the plan that were like orders. It was like the New Flyer had to agree to these clauses, and there was no room to refute at all. Although objectively speaking, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce was a first-class company in the Lampari Kingdom, and they did have the strongest sales channels. Cooperating with the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce for household magic machines that relied on retail sales was a very beneficial thing. However, Su E didn't like this arrogant attitude and didn't like being dominated by the other side when cooperating. "All right, we can discuss the price later, but compared to the price, the more important thing is the cooperation model," Su E said with a serious look. "This plan says that we have to satisfy the needs of your Walmart Chamber of Commerce first, but I disagree with this. Our New Flyer isn't a factory under your Walmart Chamber of Commerce, so it's impossible for us to only provide our products to your company. So just based on this, I can't agree to it. But Chairman Su, according to what I know, your New Flyer can only produce several tens of thousands of household magic machines each month. Our Walmart Chamber of Commerce is facing customers from all the cities in the kingdom, so their demand could reach several 100,000 units. If your new flyer can't give us priority and can't satisfy the needs of our customers, not only will it affect the prestige of our Walmart Chamber of Commerce, it will also affect the confidence your customers have in your new flyer. I think that Chairman Su definitely isn't willing to see this, right? Wilson paused before saying with a sincere expression, Chairman Su, we can discuss the price, but I'm afraid there's no possibility of discussing priority. He looked at Wilson, who looked very sincere, but was actually completely fearless. After thinking for a bit, he suddenly said with a smile, if you're worried about not being able to satisfy the needs of your customers, I actually have a very good suggestion. Chapter 222. This fall, Banta City's harvest was quite good. Actually, using quite good to describe it wasn't appropriate. Rather, it should be very good, or even so good that it was hard to believe. Because compared to last year, after this fall harvest, the final statistics showed that Banta City's wheat yield had reached 570,000 tons. It was over 4 times the previous year's 130,000 tons. Grain yield was the most important thing for all the Signs countries, and for the Lampari Kingdom that had just recovered from the chaos, it was even more important. So after this result was calculated, the city lord Count Samo was pleasantly surprised. He made an exception and held a large banquet, inviting all the famous people of Banta City. He was naturally also invited. He wasn't willing to waste time attending this banquet, but the success of this fall harvest was mainly due to the agricultural magic machines of the new flyer. Samo Count had mentioned that he had to attend, so naturally he couldn't reject him. The banquet ended with Samo Count's excited long speech, and then it was time for the free banquet. The people who came to the banquet all went to find the people they wanted to talk to. The Serene Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Rank immediately found Su-E. Chairman Su, your new flyer has really taken the limelight this time. Sir Count just praised you and the new flyer to the heavens. I think that if anyone in Banta City dares to cause trouble for you and the new flyer, Sir Count will be the first to disagree. Chairman Rank said with a smile. Sir Count has always supported our company. Su-E said with a smile. Of course, this is all because the agricultural magic machines are easy to use. Don't you think, Chairman Rank? Of course. This old man has experienced many famines, so I know that for a person, the first problem they need to solve is to fill their stomachs. Now, with the help of the agricultural magic machines, our Banta City can receive this much wheat and fill everyone's stomachs. It can be said that Chairman Su and your new flyer have done a very good thing. If anyone dares to cause trouble for you and your new flyer, not to mention Sir Count not agreeing, this old man also won't agree. When he said this, Chairman Rank's eyes inadvertently looked at Hank Wilson, who was talking to the Armani Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Cruz in the distance. He looked at Wilson in the distance and revealed a faint smile. Chairman Rank, did the Walmart Chamber of Commerce come looking for your Serang Chamber of Commerce? This Wilson came to me yesterday afternoon. Chairman Rank to look at Su-E to look at Su-E. Chairman Su, are you not satisfied with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's conditions, so you push him to us? I think this Wilson's meaning is that he wants to cooperate with your new flyer the most. I just proposed a new method of cooperation to him. Su-E said. In the beginning, I was indeed very dissatisfied with the conditions they proposed, but when Vice Chairman Wilson expressed his worry about our company's output, I suddenly thought of a new method that everyone can benefit from. I think that Vice Chairman Wilson should have mentioned this to you when he saw you yesterday, right? He said that you wanted the Walmart Chamber of Commerce to set up a household magic machine store, putting all kinds of household magic machines together and letting people choose from them. Chairman Rank asked. Right, I proposed this. What do you think of this plan? Chairman Rank slightly knit his brows and considered his words before saying in a thoughtful voice, Chairman Su, I don't think that this is a very good plan. You should be very clear that the reason why our company sold our magic fans far away from Banta City is because everyone knows that we can't compete with your Sheen Fei brand household magic machines in Banta City and the surrounding cities. Now I want to put our household magic machines together with your Fei brand household magic machines. I'm not afraid to say something embarrassing, but if I were a customer, I would also choose your Fei brand household magic machines. Sui laughed. Many thanks for the praise. But Chairman Rank, you've forgotten a very important problem. You can't compete with us in Bana City and the surrounding cities. Although the quality of the products is one reason, the main reason is that our new flyer has already established a good reputation in Bana City and the surrounding cities, so everyone has developed the habit of buying our Fei brand household magic machines. But the people of the other cities don't have this habit, so we are actually on the same starting line. Chairman Rank's expression didn't relax at all. But I have to admit, the quality and performance of your Fei brand household magic machines are better than ours. Even if the people of the other cities don't understand it at first, they will understand it after comparing it. In the end, we can't compete with you. But isn't your price lower than ours? Sui said. Actually, in my opinion, the difference in the quality and performance of the household magic machines isn't that big. If people were to choose, there would be many people who would rather sacrifice a bit of quality and choose the cheaper ones. So you don't need to worry about not being able to compete with us at all. Chairman Rank looked at the serious Sui and couldn't help asking in a confused voice, Chairman Sue, we are your competitors. Why are you thinking for us? I've said it before, I'm making a big cake and not stealing the cake. This industry is very, very big. Not to mention our new flyer not being able to fill it. Even if all the companies in Bana City were to fill it, they still wouldn't be able to fill it. Instead of everyone viciously competing and hindering the development of the industry, it is better to have healthy competition and develop together. So he honestly said, actually, I'm already prepared to release a part of the household magic machine production technology, letting our peers make household magic machines that aren't that different from our Fei brand. But you'll never give us all the technology your company has, right? Chairman Rank said in a straightforward manner. Sui said with a laugh, of course, if we hand everything over, wouldn't our Frestec Chamber of Commerce have nothing to eat? Then again, leaving a bit of gap for everyone will give everyone the motivation to catch up to us. Think about it. As long as we put in a bit of effort, perhaps we can surpass our Fei brand in terms of household magic machines. How exciting would that be? Chairman Rank shook his head with a sigh. Chairman Sue, should I say that you're generous or cunning? It's not important how you evaluate me. The important thing is that Chairman Rank, including you, I want all the companies in Bana City to understand that I really want this industry to develop. Everything I'm doing right now is working towards this. Sui said with a serious look. Chairman Rank gave a slight nod. I can see that. All right, since Chairman Sue is planning on releasing a part of the technology, I feel that if the Walmart Chamber of Commerce really opens a household magic machine store, the other companies will be interested and confident in participating. That's good, Sui said with a smile. With more companies participating, we can form a group to discuss conditions with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. After we finish discussing, our conditions will be even more beneficial to us. Chairman Rank glared at Sui. It's more beneficial to your new flyer, right? Of course I won't deny this. Sui laughed. It's good that everyone is good. Don't you think so, Chairman Rank? Chairman Rank helplessly shook his head and turned to leave, walking over to the business union members. He came to find Sui because he wanted to ask Sui about this matter. Now that he knew Sui's true intentions, naturally, he had to tell the other companies that were also concerned about this. When Chairman Rank left, Chairman Cruz appeared out of nowhere. Seeing him, Sui was scared before he couldn't help breaking out in laughter. Chairman Cruz, did you go south for a vacation? It's only been a month since we last met. How did you suddenly become this dark? Chairman Cruz blinked. Because his skin was much darker, his eyes were much whiter as he snappily said, How could I have the time to go on a vacation? I've been running around all day, so I've been completely tanned. Sui couldn't help smiling as he asked, What was the result? The result? Chairman Cruz revealed a very satisfied smile. The result was very good. In less than a month, I've already reached an agreement with the 4 companies. Our Omrit Chamber of Commerce will be building the 7 roads that the 4 companies will be building. 7 roads? He was a bit surprised. There are actually companies that are this generous, building more than one road at once. Do you think that the other companies are as poor as your new flyer? Chairman Cruz had a very good relationship with Sue, so he could joke around without any scruples. Among them, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce has built 3 at once. There is also a company around the same size as the First and Carriage Company that has built 2, while the other 2 companies have only built 1 each. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce. He turned around and looked around the hall before quickly finding Chairman Morgan. Were they planning on building these 3 roads? Chairman Cruz gave a few names, and he compared them to the map in his mind. He found that these 3 roads were as expected, connecting the mines under the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, and also connecting the road to Anvil Mar City. He calculated that if these 3 roads were all opened, it would be close to 400 kilometers. Compared to the Falling Rain Road and the Bonkar Road, this was a large amount. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce really was the largest company in the Lampuri Kingdom. It was fine if they didn't make a move, but once they did, it was this shocking. After Chairman Cruz explained the situation of the other roads, he found that if these 7 roads were all finished, although they were far from being completely connected to the Lampari Kingdom, at least a portion of the most important roads could be replaced by roads. It could be seen that the people in charge of these companies were all people with foresight, choosing quite accurately. He was naturally happy to see this situation. He even felt that Chairman Cruz had only chosen 4 companies, so the 7 roads were far from enough. If possible, he hoped that all the companies in the Lampari Kingdom would work together and turn all the roads in the Lampari Kingdom into flat roads, making the traffic in the Lampari Kingdom soar. Of course, he knew that this was wishful thinking, so he patted Chairman Cruz's shoulder and praised with a nod. Good job. Chapter 223. Chairman Cruz came looking for not just to report his achievements to but rather to place another order with He wanted the new flyer to provide more road construction magic machines to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, while also hoping that the new flyer could speed up their research and develop even more new magic machines as soon as possible. For this, he gave a very detailed list. It described the problems the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce encountered when building roads and dams, as well as some problems when building houses. As for the places that could be replaced by magic machines, there were detailed notes on the list. The meaning was to let develop these problems first. Looked over the list before putting it away, but he didn't express that he could quickly solve these problems. There was no other way. The Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce and the Magic Machine Development Workshop had limited manpower, so there were countless problems that needed to be solved. Even if he had a large amount of mechanical knowledge from Earth, he still needed the cooperation of these 2 to truly develop magic machines. Chairman Cruz naturally knew this situation, so he could only urge him and not say anything else. After Chairman Cruz left after confirming the order, the First and Carriage Company's Chairman Pompey came to Suyi's side. He came to ask about the toll booth on the Bonkar Road that the new flyer was building. The road that the First and Carriage Company was building between Bana City and Sultan City was almost finished. Although they had already built the toll booth and collected quite a bit of toll, this was the First and Carriage Company's first time doing this, so Chairman Pompey was a bit uncertain. Relax. Her Highness has already promised me that at least when His Majesty is on the throne, there won't be any changes to the contract we signed with the royal family. You just need to keep collecting the toll. There's no need to worry about anything. He was very clear on what Chairman Pompey was worried about, so he spoke very directly. As expected, after hearing what he said, Chairman Pompey's expression relaxed a bit. That's good. I've always felt that building toll booths on people's roads was a bit like robbing bandits, so I've always felt a little uneasy. Now that I hear from you that His Majesty the King will always support me, I feel much more at ease. Even if we are bandits recognized by His Majesty. Haha. He rolled his eyes at him. Who told you we're bandits? Did the bandits spend money to build roads? Don't worry. Those people who are scolding us are only scolding us because they don't understand new things. I can guarantee that in a few years, this kind of thing will be everywhere in the kingdom, and everyone will quickly get used to it. By then, no one will scold us anymore. Just now, President Cruz told me that 7 more roads were about to be built. Let's see if there will still be people scolding us after we build toll booths on these 7 roads. Another 7. President Pompey was overjoyed. At this rate, won't the Lampari kingdom be filled with roads in a few years? If it's like this, it really is a good thing for our first and carriage company. Chairman Su, do you know that since the Bancar Road opened, our horse carriages can make an average of 13 more trips a day between Bana City and Karma City? If all the roads in the kingdom become roads, our carriage company's business will be much better than before. Su, he was speechless as he looked at Chairman Pompey, who was making a fuss over nothing. He thought that you're this excited with just 13 more trips a day. So if the engine was developed and you could make over 100 trips a day, wouldn't you faint from excitement? After talking about the toll booths, Chairman Pompey and Su discussed if the 2 companies should build 2 more roads connecting Bana City to the further Canberra City and Norton City. Although Su was very interested in this proposal, the Bana City renovation project was still in progress, so he couldn't determine how these 2 roads would be connected. Adding in the fact that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had already built the 7 roads invested in by the 4 companies, they didn't have enough manpower to build 2 more roads, so this proposal could only be delayed. Chairman Su, if Chairman Cruz could learn from you and make the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's road-building technology public, wouldn't there be more companies building roads together? Chairman Pompey said in a voice filled with a bit of regret. Su looked at him and thought that there was a hidden meaning in his words. After thinking about it, he calmly replied, "The technology isn't important. What's more important is the people." Chairman Cruz's hair is about to turn white from anxiety, but he can't find enough people. Their Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce is building more and more projects, so they're lacking more and more people. Otherwise, why do you think that after going out for close to a month, he only received 7 projects? Chairman Pompey gave a bitter smile when he heard this. It's fine that they lack people. There are people from other places entering Bana City every day, so they can recruit enough workers sooner or later. But what our first and carriage company lacks the most are horses with enough stamina to pull the horse carriages for long distances. These things are harder to find than people. I'm afraid I have more white hair than Chairman Cruz. Su gave a shrug, showing that he couldn't help even if he wanted to. Although because of Su Yi's request, 70 had sold some military horses to the first and carriage company through her connections, compared to the increasing demand for people and goods in Bana City. These military horses were just a drop in the bucket. It was far from enough. Su wanted to comfort Chairman Pompey by saying that as long as the engine was developed, he could quickly solve the horse problem. But thinking of how hard it was to develop the engine and how there hadn't been any breakthroughs yet, he couldn't say this no matter what. After sighing with Su for a bit, Chairman Pompey bid farewell and left. Then Chairman Vincent of the Armani Chamber of Commerce, who had been waiting on the side, came over. Without needing Chairman Vincent to speak, Su immediately said, "No need to rush them. I've already had Camby and the others experiment with producing spindles and cradles. This is rather simple. I think it won't take a week for them to figure out how to mass produce it. Now you just need to find 1 or 2 small component processing companies and teach them the technology. Then you can directly order from these small companies. As for the steel rings, and knitting needles, you don't need to rush. There will be a component processing factory that will solve this problem for you sooner or later." Chairman Vincent was surprised before nodding in satisfaction. I knew that Chairman Su could be relied on. But other than this, I came to find you for something else. Seeing Su talking to Chairman Vincent in the distance, Count Samoyed shook his head. He said to Kennard beside him with a smile, "Look, this kid is this busy." Kennard said with a faint smile, "I've already experienced this. Following by Chairman Su's side these past few days, even I'm exhausted. It can be imagined just how busy Chairman Su is. Actually, this kid is asking for it. With New Flyer's current development, he doesn't need to be this busy. He can peacefully and honestly produce the magic machines he's developed, sitting at home and counting money. So why would he need to torture himself like this? Count Samoyed said, Lord Count, are you indirectly praising Chairman Su? Kennard smiled. Kennard revealed a smile. If Chairman Su was this short-sighted and didn't have any ambitions, would you support him like this? Of course not, Count Samoyed replied in a very certain voice. To be honest, this kid has brought me many pleasant surprises and helped me solve many problems. If it wasn't for him, the current Bana City wouldn't have developed this quickly, even surpassing my imagination. But because he is too active, I'm very worried about him. First, not to mention the more things he does, the more difficulties he encounters. Just by squeezing himself like this, his body won't be able to take it sooner or later. Kennard shook his head. You don't need to worry about his body. Chairman Su should be about to become a 7th-grade magician. If he can find time to study magic, I feel that he will become a great magician before the age of 40. After becoming a great magician, his physique will be greatly improved by the magic elemental energy, and his lifespan will increase by quite a bit. You wouldn't think that he won't even live to 40, right? 40? Count Samoyed suddenly gave a sigh. Looking at Su Yi in the distance, there was a trace of worry in his eyes. This kid has already attracted the attention and vigilance of many people. I'm worried that if he and New Flyer keep growing, it might touch the nerves of some people. No, it's not a possibility, it's a certainty. So, I really can't guarantee that he won't live to 40. Kennard revealed a faint smile. Isn't there an important person like the Lord City Lord protecting him? Not to mention that Her Highness appreciates and supports him. With the protection of you and Her Highness, he doesn't need to worry about this problem. Her Highness appreciates and supports him? It might not be a good thing for him. Count Samoyed looked in the direction of Anvilmar City in the north. After a moment of silence, he turned his head to look at Kennard and asked, You suddenly coming here, does that mean that your father has finally made up his mind? Kennard shook his head. My lord father hasn't made up his mind for now. But the good news is that he has finally revealed a bit of his intentions. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let me come here. Count Samoyed nodded lightly. Just a bit of his intentions is enough. Now that you're here and have made contact with Su Yi, it doesn't matter what your father thinks, because the important thing is what others think. Kennard shook his head. After all, I'm not the big brother. Is that so? Count Samoyed smiled, but he didn't plan on asking this question. He looked at Su Yi in the distance, who seemed to have finished talking with Chairman Vincent. After thinking for a bit, he asked, Then what about you? Have you made up your mind? Kennard also looked at Su Yi in the distance and revealed a faint smile. I haven't made up my mind for now either. But from the contact I've made over the past few days, I also have some intentions. As for whether I'll make this decision in the end, it'll depend on what I observe. I hope you can make up your mind soon. Count Samoyed nodded. Su Yi is too busy, so busy that he doesn't even have time to date Steele. This really isn't a good thing. If someone can help him and share some of his burden, that would be great. Kennard smiled without saying anything. Chapter 2:24. 3 days later, Hank Wilson left Bana City. In these 3 days, he had made contact with many companies in Bana City. According to Su Yi's suggestion, Wilson reached a preliminary agreement with the companies that produced magic machines, including the New Flyer. They were prepared to open a magic machine store that would sell different kinds of magic machines, including the Shinfei brand. This agreement was not only beneficial to the smaller companies that produced magic machines, allowing them to obtain a stable sales channel, it was also very beneficial to the New Flyer, who was currently the largest magic machine company. The New Flyer's biggest flaw was their sales channel, so the Walmart Chamber of Commerce coming to cooperate with them was exactly what they wanted. The reason why they pulled in the other companies was mainly to make the Walmart Chamber of Commerce give up their priority in supplying the magic machines. Moreover, for this agreement, Chairman Rank had specially proposed to establish the Banta City Magic Machine Business Association. It would be a cooperative association for all the companies related to magic machines in Banta City. If there was something like the Walmart Chamber of Commerce that affected the entire magic machine industry in Banta City, it would be handled by this association. Because the magic fans produced by the other companies had good sales in the Lampari Kingdom, there were many companies that wanted to give up on magic machines in Banta City that regained hope. Adding in the fact that the new flyer had released the technology for the magic kettle, there were many companies that once again entered the magic machine industry. Now, in this small Banta City, including the new flyer, there were already 23 magic machine companies. There were also powerful companies like the Serene Chamber of Commerce and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce. And this was just the companies that produced magic machines. There were also other companies related to magic machines. For example, the 67 small companies that process components, or the Cantona Chamber of Commerce that used agricultural magic machines to help people harvest crops. If all these companies were added together, there were over 100 of them. This time, Chairman Rank's proposal had received the support of most of the 100 companies. So once the Magic Machine Business Association was established, its scale almost surpassed the business union. Even if the Magic Machine Business Association only managed matters related to magic machines and couldn't compare to the business union in influence, it was still a large organization in Banta City's business world, so its influence wasn't weak. Since the association had been established, of course, they had to choose a president as their representative. As for the choice of president, other than Su Yi, who had suggested President Rank, the rest of the representatives who had joined the association unanimously recommended Su Yi to be the president. In fact, this was a very natural thing. The magic machine industry could be considered as Su Yi's creation. Since this association dealt with matters related to magic machines, he naturally wouldn't pass on the responsibility of being the president. Therefore, Su Yi didn't refuse and accepted the position of president. As soon as he became the guild leader, Su Yi immediately took action. First, he announced an industry standard. This industry standard involved many aspects, including safety standards and production standards. Whether it was the magic machine industry or the small companies that process components, it would affect them to a certain extent. The companies that joined the Magic Machine Business Association found that if they followed the industry standard that Su Yi announced, the factories under them would have to undergo quite a bit of changes to meet this standard. Since the association had just been established, it wasn't convenient for everyone to refute Su Yi, but they couldn't help complaining about this standard. However, Su Yi didn't care about these opinions and just took out another standard to explain. Then he announced that the new flyer would be releasing some magic machine-related technology to the large companies that joined the Magic Machine Business Association. They would be selling patents like the Magic Kettle, so any company that wanted to buy it could buy it. After Su Yi announced this news, all the voices of the association that had objections disappeared. Almost all the companies expressed their intentions to buy it. After the Frestec Chamber of Commerce sold the Magic Kettle technology, there were many companies that produced outstanding magic kettles. Whether it was in Banta City or other cities, they were very popular, allowing many companies to earn a large amount from this. After tasting the benefits, when these companies heard that the new flyer was going to sell their technology, of course they wouldn't let it go. Because of Su Yi's announcement, not only were all the companies of the Magic Machine Business Union excited, even the companies that didn't join the Magic Machine Business Union for various reasons regretted it and began to request to join the Magic Machine Business Union. In a short period of time, Su Yi's prestige in the Banta City magic machine industry had greatly increased. Because of this, he was able to sit in the position of the Magic Machine Business Association's chairman, and no one questioned him anymore. Is this considered giving candy after giving a slap? Steele was panting from jogging as she asked Su Yi beside her with a smile. The sun was rising from the east, and the bright sunlight fell onto Steele's face that was flushed from jogging, making her look even more beautiful. Adding in the sweat that dripped down her ears, cheeks, and slender neck, she was just like a flower covered in dew in the morning, looking incomparably beautiful. Su Yi looked over and was stunned for a while. A while ago, because Steele went to Anvilmar City to participate in a jewelry announcement for the Serang Chamber of Commerce, she had left Banta City. Yesterday afternoon, when Steele finally came back from Anvilmar City, she came looking for Su Yi without even putting down her luggage. But when she saw Su Yi, Steele was scared by Su Yi's pale and haggard face. After asking Vivian, Steele learned that not only was Su Yi busy with work during the day, he was also staying up late at night to do research, which was why he was this haggard. She immediately flew into a rage, and without another word, she took the blueprint from Su Yi's hand and forced Su Yi to go to sleep. When Su Yi woke up after sleeping for 2 hours and had dinner with Steele, Steele guarded him the entire time. When the sky turned dark, she pushed Su Yi back into bed and only left when she saw him fall asleep. In the end, Su Yi woke up early this morning because he had slept too early. When he was thinking that since he woke up this early, he should take this chance to run in the morning that he hadn't done in a long time. Steele was already wearing tight sportswear as she knocked on the door. Seeing that Su Yi was already out of bed, Steele threw over the same sportswear she had prepared for him and had him change into it. Then she pulled him out of the room and began running with him. Steele's stamina wasn't that good, and she didn't have the habit of running in the morning. This time she had purely prepared this for Su Yi, so not long after running out of Su Yi's house, she was panting and covered in sweat. But when her appearance fell into Su Yi's eyes, it revealed a different kind of beauty that made Su Yi stunned. Not hearing Su Yi's reply for a long time, Steele turned her head in confusion and saw Su Yi looking at her in a daze. Her face immediately blushed a bit, but her heart was filled with happiness as she asked with a smile, "Do I look very good?" Su Yi was stunned before coming back to his senses. He nodded and said with a smile, "You look very good." "Steele, do you know that I had a dream before? It was to have a beauty run with me every morning. That way I would have enough motivation to keep running. I never thought that. I couldn't realize it before, but now it has happened. I'm so happy that my heart is about to jump out." Steele gave a laugh, but because her breathing was a bit unstable from running, she couldn't help coughing violently. After calming down with difficulty, Steele glared at Su Yi. "You don't need to exaggerate like this, right? Isn't it easy to have a beauty run with you? I'll run with you every morning from now on. If you're not satisfied, you can also pull Vivian along. I can see that her body isn't that good, so she should exercise more." Su Yi laughed. "Of course that's good. With a beauty, the boring thing of running will become interesting and it'll be easier to keep going. But Steele, if you want me to wake up this early, you have to sleep early. But without your supervision, I'm worried that I won't sleep this early. Could it be that you'll watch me sleep every night?" Steele was a bit surprised before her face turned red. She didn't reply to Su Yi at all as she sped up and ran past Su Yi, running far away. Su Yi was a bit confused. When he wanted to call out to Steele and ask her why she was suddenly running this fast, he reacted after a while. His final question was just too easy to misunderstand. It was no wonder Steele's reaction was so strange. But Su Yi thought about it, and he couldn't help smiling. As long as he could marry Steele, this question wasn't a misunderstanding and it was natural. Looking at Steele, who was already far away, Su Yi gave a laugh. He kicked off and sped up, quickly chasing after her. It was just a slow morning run, but because the two of them were chasing each other, it became a race. The two of them were very far away from Banda City. They quickly left Banda City and went around a small circle, coming to the Sandy River to the north of the city. The Sandy River was still being reconstructed, and the two sides of the river were already a bit different, but there was still a large patch of grass by the river. The two of them had been running at high speeds for this long, so they were already panting from exhaustion. Seeing that Steele couldn't help slowing down, Su Yi slowly stopped and shouted to Steele, "Steele! Steele, stop! Stop! I can't run anymore." Steele finally slowed down and slowly stopped. Turning to see Su Yi bending over and panting, Steele came over with a smile. She patted Su Yi's back and said in a proud voice, "How about it? You can't catch me, right?" Su Yi looked up, and because of his angle, the first thing he saw was Steele's two peaks trembling as she panted. Even if Su Yi's heart was as calm as water, his heart couldn't help skipping a beat at this time. Although he resisted the urge to grab those two towering peaks, he couldn't help feeling a wave of desire. He suddenly stood up and opened his arms, tightly hugging Steele. "I caught you," Su Yi loudly shouted. Steele was scared, but she couldn't help smiling. You're shameless. Humph. How can I not be shameless when chasing a girl? Sui hugged Steele tightly. He only felt that the two peaks in front of Steele's chest were pressed against his own, which made his mouth dry up. Looking at Su Yi's flushed face, feeling the strength of Su Yi's hug and the warmth of his body, and then facing the heavy breath coming out of Su Yi's nostrils, Steele seemed to feel something. She stopped laughing and blushed, but unlike other girls, she didn't lower her head at this time. Instead, she took the initiative to raise her head and sent her lips to Su Yi's. Su Yi naturally lowered his head without hesitation. Just as the two's lips were about to touch, a loud, angry curse suddenly sounded from the riverside. Su Yi, you bastard, even if I die and become an undead, I won't let you go. Chapter 225. Su Yi and Steele were stunned at the same time and looked in the direction of the sound. Su Yi was extremely annoyed. Just now, the atmosphere between him and Steele was so good, and they were about to finish a passionate kiss in the morning, but they were interrupted by this guy. And this guy could have scolded anyone, but he actually scolded him. How could he tolerate this? Su Yi let go of Steele, frowned, and walked in the direction of the sound. He wanted to see which idiot was so blind. Who would have thought that after just 2 steps, he suddenly heard a plop sound from that direction, as if something heavy fell into the water. Su Yi was stunned, and looked back at Steele, who was also stunned, and shouted, "Oh no!" at the same time. Without thinking too much, he cast the Imperial Wind technique on himself, and flew directly to the river. The two instantly flew to the surface of the river, and looking down, they found that on the wide sandy river, a figure was bobbing up and down along with the flowing water. While floating, that person was still shouting for help. Seeing the situation, Su Yi couldn't help but feel a little angry and amused. Sure enough, people who commit suicide are impulsive, and when they are faced with death, they will regret it. Su Yi sighed, shook his head, and flew down. With one hand, he grabbed the collar on the back of the man's back and directly lifted him out of the river. Carrying the man, he flew to the river and put him down. The man rolled on the ground and vomited a few mouthfuls of river water before he recovered. When he finally stopped gasping for breath, he looked up and saw Su Yi and Steele in front of him and repeatedly thanked them. "Thank you for saving my life. May I ask where you live? What is your name? I will pay you a special visit to thank you." Su Yi looked the man up and down and found that although the man looked a little disheveled after being soaked in the river from the clothes he was wearing, he didn't seem to be from a poor family. Moreover, his speech and behavior were very decent. No matter how he looked at it, he didn't seem like someone who would commit suicide because of poverty. Su Yi thought about how this guy had scolded him before he jumped into the river. Amused, he asked, "You were scolding me so happily just now, but now you don't recognize me? Besides, it doesn't matter if you don't recognize me, but you can't possibly not recognize Steele, right?" Steele didn't have time to respond to Su Yi's praise. Instead, she squatted down, looked straight at the man, and asked coldly, "Why are you scolding Su Yi? Did he offend you?" That person looked at Steele in surprise before looking up at Su Yi. The two of them had their backs to the sun, so he didn't recognize them. But now that he looked at them from a different angle, he instantly recognized the two of them. Su Yi wasn't wrong at all. As someone from Bana City, it was fine if he couldn't recognize Su Yi, but if he couldn't even recognize Steele, that was impossible. However, after recognizing the two of them, that person seemed to be frightened by something. His hands were on the ground as he moved back several meters. When Su Yi and Steele were confused and wanted to keep asking, he suddenly jumped up from the ground and pointed at Su Yi as he shouted, "Su Yi, you are Su Yi, you bastard. Give me back my fleet." Su Yi was even more confused. Looking at the angry face of this person who didn't dare approach him because of fear, he couldn't help saying, "Hey, I don't even know who you are. How can I return your fleet? Then again, I don't even know what fleet you were talking about. What do you want me to return?" Steele looked at that person with knit brows for a while before suddenly clapping her hands and saying, "Oh, I remember now. You seem to be the Porter Chamber of Commerce's chairman. You're called. What's your name again? Simila Porter. That person never thought that Steele would recognize him. After being stunned, the angry expression on his face faded, and he said with a bitter smile, I never thought that, even after becoming like this, young Miss Steele could still recognize me. That's right. I'm the Porter Chamber of Commerce's chairman, but the Porter Chamber of Commerce is no longer here. Sue, he looked at Steele, signaling for her to talk to this Simila Porter first. Steele nodded in understanding. After thinking for a while, she continued to ask Simila Porter, Chairman Porter, I remember that the last time I met you was at a banquet held by the Sarek Chamber of Commerce. If I remember correctly, your Porter Chamber of Commerce was mainly engaged in river transportation, right? Young Miss Steele's memory is really amazing. Simila Porter praised. That's right. Our Porter Chamber of Commerce was indeed mainly engaged in river transportation. But now, Simila Porter shot a glance at Sue E., his face full of hatred. But because of Chairman Sue, our Chamber of Commerce was forced to close down because we couldn't get any business. My beloved fleet has also been sold off. Perhaps it has already been dismantled into pieces of wood. Sue E. knit his brows and couldn't help but ask, Chairman Porter, your Chamber of Commerce couldn't get any business and was forced to close down. What does this have to do with me? How can it not have anything to do with me? When answering Steele's question, this Simila Porter was still able to maintain his calm. But when he heard Sue speak, he immediately became irritable and loudly replied, If it wasn't for your new flyer building the damned roads, if it wasn't for your new flyer controlling the upper reaches of the Sandy River, how could our Chamber of Commerce not get any business? How could we close down? All of this is because of you. You still dare to say it has nothing to do with you. Sue, he was still very puzzled. I still don't understand. What does building roads and controlling the upper reaches of the Sandy River have to do with your Porter Chamber of Commerce not being able to get any business? Simila Porter fiercely glared at Sue E. He seemed to have realized that he couldn't communicate well with Sue E like this, so he took 2 deep breaths and tried to calm himself down. You think it has nothing to do with you, Chairman Sue? Simila Porter sneered. Let me tell you, it had a lot to do with it. Before your new flyer built that damned road, whether it was goods or people, it was much faster to travel on the river than on land, and you could transport more at a time. So before this, half of Banna City's goods could be transported by our Porter Chamber of Commerce through the Sandy River. However, after this damned road was built, everyone found that it was faster to travel on land than on the river. Moreover, they could directly transport to their destination and didn't need to go around on boats. Compared to this, of course, there were fewer and fewer people who chose our company to transport goods on the river. That isn't right. The river can transport large amounts of goods. This is something that the current land transport can't replace. Sue E. asked in a strange voice. Great sect? Simila Porter sneered again. Simila Porter gave another cold laugh. Did you forget the other reason I mentioned? Controlling the upper reaches of the Sandy River? What does that have to do with anything? Of course it has to do with anything. Simila Porter pointed at the surging Sandy River to the side. Your new flyer controlled the upper reaches of the Sandy River to the northwest of the falling rainforest, so the Sandy River has indeed returned to its original state. However, the sediment from the Sandy River didn't settle in the falling rainforest upstream. Rather, it was washed near Banna City. Carefully look at the river water. Could it be that you haven't found that it is much more muddy compared to last year? Sue E. and Steele looked at the Sandy River to the side at the same time. Sue E. didn't find any problems, but Steele said with a nod, I wouldn't have noticed it if you didn't mention it. Compared to when I was young, the river water indeed isn't as clean. Simila Porter gave a loud laugh. Chairman Sue, have you noticed a problem now? Now that the sediment from the upper reaches of the Sandy River has been washed near Banna City, it isn't just making the river muddy. Let me tell you, I've been running on this river for several decades, so I'm very familiar with this matter. I'm certain that in just a few years, the water level of this river will rise because of the sediment. When that time comes, there will only be a single storm, and you can just wait to see the flood. I heard that you wanted to build a river bank project last time. You wanted to build a garden on the banks of the Sandy River. Garden? When the flood comes, It would be good if this place didn't turn into a cemetery. So he was silent for a bit before walking to the riverbank. He reached out a hand and activated his magic, causing a stream of water to appear on the riverbank before gathering into a ball of water in the air. Su-yi and Steele looked up at this giant ball of water that was over 2 meters in diameter and found that the color of the water was very muddy. Because Su-yi had stopped the flow of the water under the ball of water, there was a layer of sediment that was naturally deposited. The two looked at each other and could see the worry in each other's eyes. Although Simila Porter's words were a bit alarmist, based on the current situation of the Sandy River, this was indeed a matter that was worth paying attention to. The level of technology in the signs wasn't high, so the level of the Water Conservancy project wasn't that high. No matter where the flood happened before, it would always lead to very serious consequences. The Sandy River had never flooded before, so no one in Bana City thought of this problem. But looking at it now, this was a problem that needed to be solved. Su-yi turned to look at Simila Porter and gave him a nod before saying with a serious look, "Thank you." Simila Porter was stunned. He never thought that after speaking so harshly to Su-yi would actually sincerely thank him. Thank me for what? Thank you for noticing the changes in the Sandy River and telling me about this serious situation. Su-yi replied, although this can't be considered the responsibility of me and the new flyer, since it's related to me, I have to take responsibility. So I have to thank you. If it wasn't for you making me notice this problem, when the problem really occurred, it would have been too late. Seeing Su-yi's sincere expression, Simila Porter's expression quickly changed. After a while, it became dejected as he waved his hand and said with a sigh, "Forget it, our company being forced to close because we can't get any business. This is because my abilities aren't good enough. It can't be blamed on you. I was wrong for scolding you just now. I asked you not to put it in your heart." Su-yi shook his head with a faint smile. "This is a small matter. But Chairman Porter, what are you planning to do in the future?" "Me?" Simila Porter laughed bitterly. Simila Porter gave a bitter laugh. "The fleet is gone and the company is closed. What else can I do? I don't even have the courage to commit suicide, so I'll just find a job and eat until I die." "That isn't certain." Su-yi revealed a confident smile. "Chairman Porter, if you believe me, I have a job that is very suitable for you. Moreover, I dare to guarantee that it won't be long before everyone places importance on river transport. When that time comes, I can help you create a new fleet. Are you willing to believe me?" Chapter 226. Manage the Sandy River. Samo Count tightly knit his brows. He looked at the Sandy River outside the window and said in a thoughtful voice, "Su-yi, you don't suspect that Simila Porter is lying to you because he hates you? He can lie to me, but the situation of the river can't lie to me." Su-yi shook his head. "I didn't notice this before, so I didn't notice it. But after being reminded by President Porter, I carefully observed the river and asked many fishermen who used to live by the river. They all said that the Sandy River has indeed undergone significant changes during this period of time. This change might not be—" Samo Count suddenly took a deep breath and shook his head. He said to Su-yi with a smile, "It's my fault. Since I am Bana City's city lord, this should be a problem I should consider. You're right. Since there are hidden dangers in the Sandy River, we should make preparations ahead of time." Samo Count lowered his head to think for a bit before calling over an officer. He had him call over the officials in Banta City who were familiar with the river. After the officer left, Samo Count thought about it before saying to Su-yi, "If what Simila Porter said is true and the Sandy River has reached a point where it needs to be managed, we've met a problem." "What problem?" Su-yi asked. Samo Count spread his hands and said with a bitter smile, "This is an old problem. We don't have money." Su-yi couldn't help rolling his eyes, looking like he already expected this. He said with a sigh, "All right, I was the one who found this matter, so let's just let our Frestec Chamber of Commerce take care of it. But Lord City Lord, I'll say this first. Managing the Sandy River should be the responsibility of the kingdom. I can help solve this problem and even give you the money, but I have to be clear that this money can't be considered an investment from our company. So the City Lord's Manor will have to return the gold coins to us in the future or give us corresponding compensation." Samo Count helplessly shook his head. Although I know that your words are reasonable, can't you give me a bit of face as the city lord? All right, you're right. Managing the Sandy River is my responsibility, so of course you and the new flyer can't pay for it. As for whether you'll return the money or give compensation, we'll talk about it in the future. Sui nodded and didn't argue with Count on this matter. Although the new flyer might suffer a bit of a loss in terms of money, compared to gaining Samo Count's trust, this bit of loss was still worth it. Not to mention that Sui's goal wasn't in the end. Compared to the large benefits in the end, this small investment couldn't be ignored. After solving the problem of money, then any other problems were no longer a problem. After a while, the officer in charge of the river project was called in. Samo Count asked him about the situation of the Sandy River. After receiving confirmation that there were indeed changes in the Sandy River, Samo ordered him to immediately inspect the Sandy River seriously and make a detailed report on whether or not it needed to be managed and how to manage it. As for Sui's request, in addition to money, he also asked for the support of some magic construction machinery. Sui agreed to it one by one. In addition, because the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had experience in managing the upper reaches of the Sandy River, and because the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was mainly responsible for the reconstruction of the Sandy River outside the city, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce naturally wouldn't stay out of this matter. But this required Samo Count to find President Cruz and give him instructions, so it had nothing to do with Sui. After finishing the preliminary discussion, Sui left the city lord's mansion, and Steele immediately came up to him. Sui was surprised to find that Sophia was also following behind Steele and was looking at Steele with an expression of admiration. Unsurprisingly, Kennard was following beside Sophia. What did the city lord say? Steele asked Sui. The city lord attached great importance to this problem and has already begun to gather people to deal with it. Sui replied, As for me, as usual, I'll pay when I need to, and I'll put in effort when I need to. Steele smiled lightly and held Sui's hand. It's good that the city lord attached great importance to this matter. I think that since the upper reaches of the Sandy River could be managed successfully, there's no reason why the sand here couldn't be cleaned up. This isn't difficult, but the problem is that this is only a temporary solution, not a permanent solution. Sui turned around and looked towards the west. That was the direction of the falling rain forest and the upper reaches of the Sandy River. When Agnes appeared in front of him last year, it was because of the accumulation of sand in the upper reaches of the Sandy River and the falling rain forest, even causing the river to change its course. Now, after a year of management, the upper reaches of the Sandy River and the falling rain forest had basically been successfully managed. Both sides of the riverbank had solid and neat concrete embankments, forcibly turning the Sandy River back to its original path, thus solving the drinking water problem of the Night Song tribe. But this was only a temporary solution and not a permanent solution. If they couldn't solve the problem of the upper reaches of the Sandy River, then no matter how they treated the lower reaches, it would be useless. Thinking of this, Sui called out to the empty space beside him. Agnes, come out. I have something to ask you. Steele didn't have a surprised expression, but Kennard and Sophia on the side were a bit surprised. Who was Sui calling out to? When this question appeared in their hearts, the space beside Sui distorted and Agnes' figure appeared out of thin air. Kennard and Sophia were both taken aback. Sophia was so shocked that she let out a cry. When the two of them clearly saw Agnes' appearance in the next moment, the shock on their faces became even stronger. Sophia's eyes opened wide in disbelief. She covered her mouth as she shouted, Elf? God, it's actually an elf. As she shouted, she tugged at Kennard's clothes with all her might. Big brother, look, it's an elf. Do you see it? An elf. Kennard's expression was much calmer than Sophia's. He was only surprised for a bit before quickly recovering. He revealed a friendly smile to Agnes and said, I've already heard that Chairman Sui has a beautiful elf girl by his side. I've been following Chairman Sui these past few days, but I've never seen her. I thought the rumors were fake, and I was very disappointed, but I never thought that I would see her today. Being able to see the beautiful elves of the legends has really opened my eyes. Young Miss Agnes, right? I am Kennard Emma. I'm here to greet you. After being by Su Yi's side for a long time, although Agnes didn't like appearing in front of strangers, she wasn't as resistant to interacting with humans as before. Seeing Kennard greet her, Agnes gave a gentle nod. Hello, Mr. Emma. I'm very happy to see you. Sophia quickly jumped over and excitedly reached her hand out to Agnes. She said in a very friendly voice, Hello, big sister Agnes. I am called Sophia Emma, his little sister. Being able to see you really makes me happy. I've heard about the legendary elves in books when I was young, so I've always wanted to see them. I never thought that I would actually see one today. I'm so excited that I'm about to faint. Agnes looked at Su Yi with a confused expression. Su Yi shrugged his shoulders and explained, This is a way for this little girl to express her happiness. It doesn't mean that she's about to faint. Agnes nodded to show she understood. She turned to look at Sophia and thought about it, but she didn't reach out her hand. She just nodded to Sophia. Hello, Miss Emma. I'm very happy to see you. Steele couldn't help whispering into Su Yi's ear, Hey, you wouldn't have only taught her this greeting, right? Su Yi gave a bitter smile as he replied in a small voice, This is already very good. All right? When teaching Agnes how to interact with humans, what gave Su Yi a headache was that he didn't know how to make her understand that humans would use different greetings in different situations. This was because although the greetings between elves were very beautiful and had a deep meaning, they were very simple and even direct. It wasn't like the normal greetings of humans that had countless patterns. He spent a lot of effort, but he could only make Agnes learn what the first greeting to strangers was. Sophia, however, didn't care about Agnes' cold attitude at all. She looked at Agnes with interest and asked a bunch of questions in a single breath. Agnes looked at her and didn't answer a single question. She just calmly said, The chairman wants to ask me a question, so I have to answer him first. After pausing for a bit, as if she thought of something, she added this. I'll answer your questions in a bit, all right? Right? Sophia was stunned and looked at Su Yi on the side. Although she was a bit unwilling, she could only obediently give an O sound and move back. Agnes, do you know much about the situation upstream of the Sandy River? Su Yi asked. Agnes thought about it and shook her head. I have a rough understanding, but it shouldn't be much. Then tell me, is the area upstream of the Sandy River occupied by the Beastmen? Su Yi then asked. It's pretty much like this. Agnes replied with a nod. I've been to the Black Rice Wasteland a few times, and there is very little water there. So, as long as there is water, there will be a Beastman tribe. This means that the upper reaches of the Sandy River can be considered completely occupied by the Beastmen tribes. Su Yi thought for a bit before suddenly revealing a smile to Agnes. Agnes, it seems like you'll be going on a business trip with me this time. As soon as his voice fell, Su Yi felt a killing intent appear beside him. Turning around, he found that Steele's large eyes were narrowed. Chapter 227. Chairman Su, with a beautiful lady like young Miss Steele as your lover, do you feel a lot of pressure? Kennard looked at Su Yi, who still had a bitter smile on his face, and gave a small laugh. Su Yi looked at him and let out a sigh before saying, I think we're the same. You have such a beautiful and lively little sister, so the pressure must be very big. Beautiful and lively? Kennard's face twitched a few times, and the smile on his face turned into a bitter smile. I can accept the evaluation of beautiful, but as for lively, I would rather Sophia not be this lively. The two looked at each other and broke out in laughter at the same time. With just a single sentence, it was like the two of them had become much closer. After laughing, Kennard asked with a serious look, Chairman Su, why do you care so much about managing the Sandy River? This matter shouldn't be related to you and the new flyer, no matter how you look at it, right? It doesn't seem to be related on the surface. But Kennard, have you thought about the benefits of managing the Sandy River? So he asked back, benefits? Kennard thought for a bit before saying with knit brows, other than preventing floods, what other benefits are there? No, preventing floods is just a basic requirement. The real benefit is that after managing the Sandy River, it can play a more important role in river transport. So he replied, river transport? Kennard knit his brows even more. Chairman Sue, it can't be that you want to help Chairman Porter because you saw what happened to him, right? That is only one aspect. The real reason is that Banta City does need river transport right now. Sue said. Kennard, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce is in the grocery business. So for the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, what is the most important factor? This. Kennard hesitated a bit. It should be because they have enough goods. Otherwise, Uncle Hank wouldn't have asked for priority supply rights in the cooperation proposal. Suey knew that Kennard was explaining on behalf of Hank Wilson, so he smiled to show that he understood. He continued to ask, then how do we ensure that the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's stores in the various cities in the kingdom have enough goods at all times? Kennard thought for a moment, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Chairman Sue, I understand what you mean. Are you trying to show the importance of transportation to business? That's right. Suey nodded approvingly. Now that Banta City is developing this quickly, it can be imagined that Banta City will produce countless goods in the future. Since it's like this, Banta City must have a very strong transportability to transport these goods. Kennard nodded. That's right. Take the magic machines that Uncle Hank discussed with you. If you can't transport all the magic machines in Banta City, including your new flyer, to the various parts of the kingdom, letting these magic machines pile up in Banta City, it will cause serious losses. It's fine if it's just a normal loss of money. But the key thing is that if we don't have enough transportability, it will be a large blow to the magic machine industry that is about to develop in Banta City. There are many small companies that aren't that strong that have to spend all their money just to produce a batch of magic machines. So if they can't transport these goods out, it will be a disaster for them. Suey honestly said, I always hoped that there would be many companies involved in the magic machine industry in Banta City. So naturally, I don't want to see this situation. Kennard looked at Sue for a while before suddenly asking, Chairman Sue, I've been following you in New Flyer these past few days, and I've always wanted to ask you a question. Speak. It's not good to keep this question in your heart. Sue said with a smile. I want to ask, why are there many things you do like you're training competitors for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce for yourself? With the lead that your New Flyer has, you can easily dominate the magic machine industry. Like this, whether it is you or New Flyer, you will receive large benefits that people can't even imagine. Why don't you do this? Do you want to know the real answer? Suey asked. Of course. I hope that Chairman Sue can seriously answer this question of mine, because this is related to an important decision that I will be making soon, Kennard said with a nod, seeing that Kennard's expression was very serious. Although Sue was a bit surprised, after thinking about it, he still seriously replied, Actually, before you, there were many people who asked me this question. I'll repeat it to you here. I developed the magic machines and founded New Flyer just to make money at first, but now it's far from just this goal. Do you believe it? Kennard nodded without any hesitation. I believe it. If it's just to make money, there are many things that I can't understand at all. It's good that you believe this. Sue revealed a smile before continuing. Since it's not to make money, of course there are other goals, or perhaps it should be called goals. My goal, in the short term, is to let everyone enjoy the convenience that magic machines bring to signs, thus improving everyone's standard of living and making everyone's lives more comfortable. That's just a short-term goal? Kennard was a bit surprised. Then what's your further goal? A further goal would be to greatly improve the level of magic technology in signs, and then the entire world would undergo a huge change. Not only would people have to live a lowly life on land, but they would also be able to dive into the water and fly into the sky. Even space. Space. This was the first time Kennard had heard of this strange term. What's that? Sue pointed at the sky and asked Kennard, You can see that there are clouds floating in the sky. So do you know what's higher than the clouds? Kennard looked up at the high, untouchable sky and slowly shook his head. Although there were magicians who used wind magic to fly to very high places, until now, there had never been a magician who could touch the clouds, let alone reach a place higher than the clouds. Let me tell you, in a place much higher than the sky, it's actually an incomparably huge void, so big that you can't even imagine it. And in this void, There were continents that were around the same size as the sign's continent that were separated by a certain distance. I want to go to space because I want to see the other continents in space. Because maybe I can find my true home in those continents. Seeing the inexplicable melancholy on Su Yi's face, Kennard was very puzzled. Not to mention how Su Yi knew that there was an endless void beyond the sky. What was with him saying that he could find his true home in those continents? Could it be that Chairman Su, who had always been very rational and calm, actually had the characteristics of a poet? Su Yi stared at the sky in a daze for a long time, then lowered his head and looked at Kennard again. Seeing Kennard's puzzled face, Su Yi didn't intend to explain more. He smiled and asked, "How is it? Now you know why I want to cultivate competitors, right? Because I want this industry to develop as fast as possible. It's best if I can realize my dream while I'm still alive." Kennard shook his head, thinking that Chairman Su's dream was really crazy. But it was said that everyone who could achieve great success in the end would seem a little crazy. From this point of view, Chairman Su had the potential to achieve great success in the end. Thinking of this, Kennard secretly made up his mind. "Chairman Su, if you want to realize your dream, you alone won't be enough. I think you will need some help." Kennard said, "I heard from Hannes that you've always wanted to find a general manager for the new flyer to manage the Chamber of Commerce's affairs, right?" Su Yi looked at Kennard in surprise and nodded. "That's right. I've always wanted to find a general manager to share some of my work, but I haven't found a suitable candidate." Kennard smiled and pointed at himself. "Chairman Su, do you think I could be the general manager?" Although he had guessed a bit from Kennard's expression, hearing Kennard say it out loud still shocked Su Yi. "Kennard, you are the son of the Emma family's patriarch. How can you work for the Chamber of Commerce?" "I'm not the eldest son, so I don't have the right to be the patriarch. Moreover, I don't have any title right now, so entering the business world and becoming a merchant wouldn't be a problem. In fact, the family has been training me as a merchant since I was young. When I was 14, I was already in contact with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's affairs. Until half a year ago, I was still the assistant to the chairman of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce and was in charge of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's affairs. Chairman Su, do you think that I have the qualifications to be the general manager of New Flyer?" Kennard asked. "Of course you have the qualifications." Su Yi nodded without hesitation. "But I don't understand why you want to be the general manager of New Flyer. With your status, if you want to enter the business world, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce is clearly a much better choice." "Chairman Su, you just told me about your dream, and I also have a dream. Although my dream isn't as big as yours, we have one thing in common, and that is that we hope to change the world with our own strength. I don't see this hope in the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, but here, in New Flyer, I see this hope. So I want to grasp this hope and see if I can really change the world with my own efforts." Looking at the serious and sincere Kennard, Su Yi was silent. With Kennard's status, the education he received in the Emma family, and the training he went through in the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, he was indeed a very suitable candidate for the position of general manager. Although he was a year younger than Su Yi, in the business world, he was probably much more experienced than Su Yi. Strictly speaking, it was a waste of talent for such a person to be the general manager of New Flyer. Su Yi wanted to agree, but he still had some concerns. "You are still a member of the Emma family and will eventually return to the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. Working in New Flyer is actually a waste of time," Su Yi said. Kennard smiled. "Chairman Su, although I am from the Emma family, it doesn't mean that I will always be bound by the family. This time, I specifically asked Hannes to bring me here to see if New Flyer can give me the possibility to leave the family and realize my dream. Now that I have discovered this possibility, do you think I will let it go?" Seeing that Su Yi was still hesitating, Kennard continued. "Chairman Su, in fact, my father has already agreed for me to come here, so you don't have to worry about the pressure from the Emma family. Also, you don't lose anything by hiring me as the general manager, right? Regardless of whether I leave or not, at least during my time here, I can contribute to New Flyer, and I believe that I have the ability to do so. Since that is the case, Chairman Su, what are you worried about? Don't tell me. You don't even have the courage to do this?" Su Yi looked at him, thought for a while, and smiled. Don't deliberately provoke me. All right, since you are willing to be the general manager of New Flyer, then from now on, you will officially enter the probation period. I have to remind you that although your identity and resume are very impressive, New Flyer is different from the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. So the things you need to do are naturally different. If you don't do well, don't blame me for not giving you face and directly firing you. Kennard grinned, revealing his white teeth in a brilliant smile. Please rest assured, I definitely won't give you the chance to fire me. Chapter 228. Every action of a New Flyer would attract the attention of many people in Bana City and the surrounding cities. Once the news of Kennard being the general manager of the New Flyer came out, it immediately created a stir. People first paid attention to Kennard's identity. It said that this Kennard was a direct descendant of the Emma family. So according to tradition, if he wanted to do business, he should enter the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. Why did he work at the New Flyer? The second thing they paid attention to was the meaning of the word general manager. General manager? There wasn't a single company in the signs that had this title. So what did it do? The work of the general manager is actually the same as the chairman. It's mainly responsible for managing our New Flyer's matters, such as working with the company, negotiating with the outside world, and etc. Of course, it doesn't have the power of the company, so it's just helping me manage the company. For this matter, the New Flyer even held a press conference. At the press conference, Sue E. gave this explanation. The reporters who attended the press conference thought about it carefully. They felt that although the title of general manager was strange, the job he was responsible for was similar to that of vice presidents of most chambers of commerce. He was just assisting the president in management. Therefore, they were no longer surprised. Instead, they began to pay attention to another problem. Although Kennard Emma came from the Emma family and had been trained by the Walmart Chamber of Commerce since he was young, he was only 27 this year. Moreover, the New Flyer and the Walmart Chamber of Commerce were in different industries, so it could be said that Kennard Emma didn't know much about magic machines. So with him as the general manager of the New Flyer, could he really do a good job? Don't pay attention to the doubts of the reporters. Since I've chosen you, I will also choose to believe that you have the ability. After the press conference ended, Sue E. patted Kennard's shoulder as he comforted him. Kennard revealed a faint smile. His expression didn't change at all because of the doubts of the reporters. He was still as confident as usual. Please be assured, Chairman, I believe in myself more than you. That's good. If you don't even have this little bit of confidence, then you really don't deserve the salary of 50 gold coins I gave you. Sue E. nodded. Speaking of salary, Kennard pondered for a moment before saying, President, I've carefully studied it over the past 2 days. I've also discussed it with Manager Seabass. I feel that our Chamber of Commerce's salary structure is somewhat unreasonable. Oh, Sue, he was a little surprised to see Kennard quickly get into work mode. He asked with interest, How is it unreasonable? Look, this is a report I made yesterday. Kennard took out a piece of paper from his pocket. When he opened it, there was actually a simple chart on it. It recorded the salaries of different types of employees in New Flyer. It looked very clear at a glance. Sue E. glanced at it and couldn't help but nod his head in appreciation. Not bad. Kennard, you are indeed a professional. You should have completed this report by yourself, right? Although Seabass is very capable, he doesn't know how to make this kind of thing. Kennard revealed a modest smile. This isn't much. Manager Seabass just doesn't spend time on it. Oh, that's good. What are you referring to when you say it's unreasonable? Sue E. pointed at the report and asked, President, you can see from this chart that our Chamber of Commerce's workers last month had a minimum monthly salary of 11, 6 gold coins, and a maximum of 17, 3 gold coins. The average monthly salary was 13, 72 gold coins, including the benefits provided by the Chamber of Commerce. The average monthly salary of every worker has exceeded 15 gold coins. Seabass has already reported this to me. Is there a problem? Sui asked. I've done a small investigation in the past few days and found that just by looking at it, our company's workers have the highest monthly salary in Bana City. Other than our company, the workers of the other companies have a monthly salary of around 10 gold coins. Only the workers of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce who are in charge of the roads have a higher salary than our company. But in comparison, the Omrit Chamber of Commerce's workers have to work over 12 hours a day, while our company's normal workers only need to work 8 hours a day. Even if they occasionally work overtime, they'll be paid extra. So, is there a problem with that? Sui asked back with a smile. If you think that our company is paying our workers too high a wage, then this topic can end here. I've carefully considered giving our workers this wage, and it would take a lot of effort to explain the reason, so I won't explain it to you for now. Kennard shook his head. No, Chairman, I don't think that the wages of the normal workers are too high. Rather, the current structure isn't reasonable. Compared to this, the wages of the other employees are too low. Hearing that Kennard wasn't like Chairman Cruz from before, simply thinking that the wages of the normal workers were too high, Sui was instantly interested. Tell me, what are your specific thoughts? It's like this. Chairman, I've carefully studied the structure of our company over the past few days and found that for our company, the work of the normal workers isn't that important. It's even less important than the normal workers of the other companies. Why do you say this? Because most of the work of our company is given to the production magic machines, and it forms a complete production line. The work that each worker needs to do is very simple, and any normal person can grasp it after some simple training. Moreover, they can reach the same level of proficiency after a short period of time. Kennard explained. So you feel that their work isn't important? It isn't accurate to say that it isn't important, it's just that it isn't that important. This is because, in my opinion, even in the same factory, different workers have different skills, and the amount of energy they need to work is also different. Since it's like this, giving them the same wage clearly isn't reasonable. Kennard said with a serious look. This means that you want to give the normal workers in the factory a grade and give them different wages according to their grade? Sui asked. Yes. Kennard took out another form from his chest. This is the rough statistics that I've made over the past few days on the automatic magic rice cooker production line of the Household Magic Machine Workshop. Based on the statistics, it can be seen that the workers in charge of the automatic magic rice cooker have the highest requirements because there is a strict requirement for the support. Even if it's a millimeter more or less, it could become a waste product. So the workers in charge have to focus on controlling the magic lathe and can't let the magic lathe's blade have the slightest deviation. I think that this work is the most difficult and requires the most technology on the production line. Then what is the least difficult and requires the least technology? Is it the workers in charge of assembling it? Sui asked with a smile. Kennard was stunned. Sui didn't even look at the statistics, but he said what he thought. There's no need to be surprised because I'm even more clear on this than you. Sui revealed a faint smile. But if you want to break down all the work in the factory and make a detailed statistical division based on the technology involved, you need to spend a lot of energy and time. You should know that what I lack the most is energy and time, so I haven't been able to finish this work before. After saying this, Sui patted Kennard's shoulder with a smile before continuing. Before you came, no one had the ability to finish this. Now that you've mentioned it, it's very good. You can treat this work as your first important work after joining our new flyer. In half a month, I hope to see a detailed report from you. Half a month? Kennard opened his eyes wide in disbelief. President, this work is so complicated, and you're only giving me half a month? Isn't this too exaggerated? Can't you do it? Sui glanced at him and deliberately sighed. I thought that the business elites that the Emma family carefully nurtured would be extremely outstanding, but I didn't expect them to be so mediocre. Kennard couldn't help but laugh. President, are you taking revenge on me for provoking you before? All right, half a month it is. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll finish this work perfectly. Seeing the confident smile on Kennard's face, Sui felt very gratified. Disregarding everything else, just the fact that Kennard was able to do so much statistical research in just a few days, quickly grasp the key points, and find a problem that new flyer urgently needed to solve, was enough to prove that his ability was extremely strong. Although he had already found this problem before, whether it was Heinz or sea bass, they didn't have the ability to solve this problem, and he didn't have the time. Now that Kennard had joined, this problem could be easily solved. That's good. General Manager Emma, please work hard. Sue patted Kennard's shoulder and left him to ponder by himself as he went to Great Magician Camilla's magic tower. Once he opened the door to Great Magician Camilla's personal laboratory on the top floor, Sue immediately shouted out, "Your Excellency, Great Magician, Steele said that you had 2 pieces of good news for me. What is it?" Great Magician Camilla was currently doing a magic experiment. After hearing Suyi's voice, he looked up at him and didn't reply. Instead, he waved his hand at him, indicating for him to come help. He was a bit curious. With Great Magician Camilla's strength, what kind of magic experiment would he need his help with? Coming over to take a look, he immediately called out in surprise with a voice filled with endless joy. "Your Excellency, Great Magician, you actually finished it." Chapter 229. On the table in front of Great Magician Camilla, there was a small magic array that was around the size of Suyi's palm that was releasing a blue glow. Meanwhile, above the magic array, a small tornado could be seen swirling madly. It was very clear that this should be a 9th grade wind array, the storm array. What was even more clear was that this storm array was only this small. This meant that Great Magician Camilla had successfully miniaturized the entire magic array. Moreover, although this magic array and the tornado looked very small, their might wasn't small. When Sui came a bit closer, he felt a strong suction force pulling him in that direction. If it wasn't for him using his magic to neutralize the wild wind attributed magic elemental energy in the air, he might have been pulled to the ground. It's not completely finished. Great Magician Camilla pointed at the small storm array on the table. Great Magician Camilla pointed at the storm array. "I called you here other than to tell you this good news. I also wanted you to take a look and see how it can be changed to meet your requirements." Requirements. Sui carefully kept a distance from the small, but powerful tornado on the storm array. After carefully looking at it for a bit, he thought about it before saying, "Your Excellency, Great Magician, you should understand the structure and principles of the magic fan very well now. Then what do you think will happen if this storm array is placed on a magic fan?" Magic fan? Great Magician Camilla knit his brows. Great Magician Camilla knit his brows. This storm array is much stronger than the magic array used on the magic fan. If it was placed on the magic fan, as soon as it was activated, the entire magic fan would be torn to pieces. I also feel this way. Sui nodded. "So Your Excellency, Great Magician, the problem we need to solve now is how to safely transfer the powerful kinetic energy of this storm array. You are an expert in this. What do you think?" Great Magician Camilla directly said. "All right, then let's try this first." Since Great Magician Camilla could miniaturize the storm array, it meant that his understanding of this magic array had reached a very fine level, to the point where he could casually change it. As a result, the experiment went smoothly for the two of them. According to Suyi's various requests, Great Magician Camilla kept making various changes to the storm array. As for Sui, he recorded the results of each experiment in detail. The experiment that the two of them were conducting now was very likely to be the first official test of the core power of the wind-powered engine. Any data would be very useful. Although they were in different fields, Sui and Great Magician Camilla could both be considered research maniacs. It was easy for them to forget everything as soon as they began their research, completely immersing themselves in it. By the time Sui had finally completed the preliminary experiments and data collection of the miniature storm magic circle, the two of them stopped and prepared to rest. However, as soon as the two of them stopped, their stomachs made a strange growling sound. Sui and Great Magician Camilla looked at each other before breaking out in laughter. However, the two of them were so engrossed that they actually missed the time to eat. He looked out of the window and found that the sky was already a little dark. It was already close to the end of September, which meant that it was close to 7 at night. Not only did the two of them not have time to eat lunch, They had also missed the dinner time of many families. "Your Excellency, great magician, it's all tidied up. Let's find a place to eat," Su-yi said. Great magician Camilla shook his head. "I don't like eating outside. It's better if we go home. Steel shouldn't have cooked yet. I can still make it when I go back. You should come as well. I remember you saying last time that Vivian would be leaving Banta City with the school for a while. Forget it for me. Since the great magician isn't coming, I'll just find a place to eat dinner." Su-yi shook his head in rejection. Great magician Camilla looked at Su-yi with a strange expression. "Hey, kid, I suddenly thought of a problem. Why are you always unwilling to eat at my house? You have this kind of relationship with Steel. Isn't it normal to eat at my house?" Su-yi laughed. "Your Excellency, great magician, it's because I have an agreement with Steel. She owes me a meal that she made herself, and I want to save this meal for a special and meaningful moment for her to make it. So before that, I won't go to your house to eat, because I'm afraid that if I happen to see her cooking, should I eat or not?" Great magician Camilla was stunned before he couldn't help smiling. "You young people really are. Forget it. I'm too lazy to care about your matters. But kid, don't be in a rush to leave. Did you forget that I have 2 pieces of good news for you?" "Oh, that's right. What is the other good news?" Su-yi asked with an expectant look. "If it's the same good news as you successfully miniaturizing the magic array, then I'll be too happy today. I feel it's about the same. Take a look for yourself." Great magician Camilla took out the latest journal of the Sorcerer's Guild from the table and threw it to Su-yi. Su-yi opened it and immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise. That means that those old fogies of the guild actually agreed. In this issue of the Sorcerer's Guild's journal, it was mainly about the issue of the magic patent. But it was different from the discussion Su-yi saw before about whether the magic patent should be passed or not. In this issue of the journal, there is no discussion about whether the magic patent should be passed or not. Rather, it directly discussed the details of the magic patent. For example, the first article in the journal was actually discussing whether the patent should be applied to all kinds of magic. Flipping to the back, it wasn't surprising to see Great Magician Eisenkel's article. It was different from the cautious discussion in the previous articles. Great Magician Eisenkel's article stated that he fully supported the idea that the magic patent should be applied to all kinds of magic. He even gave a detailed implementation of the magic patent at the end. It could be seen that he had already determined that the magic patent would be passed by the Sorcerer's Guild and had already done some deep research on it. Based on the current situation, if we hurry up, the magic patent will be passed by the end of the year. Great Magician Camilla said. There will be an internal meeting of the guild next month, and all the great magicians of the guild will be invited to participate. Great Magician Eisenkel and I have both been invited, and Great Magician Eisenkel has already decided to participate. As for me, Su-yi immediately looked at Great Magician Camilla. Of course, he hoped that Great Magician Camilla would also participate, because there would be another voice in favor of the magic patent in a meeting. Great Magician Camilla deliberately kept Su-yi in suspense for a while before nodding with a smile. I've also decided to participate. Su-yi exaggeratedly patted his chest. Your Excellency, Great Magician, don't scare me. It's not bad now. At least you and Great Magician Eisenkel have expressed their support. It would be great if I could see the other 3 great magicians of the kingdom. I can guarantee that I can convince them. Don't have high hopes. Great Magician Camilla shook his head. Great Magician Camilla shook his head. Although this decision should be passed in the end, there are still many magicians who have expressed their opposition. Even if this decision is passed in the end, it might not reach the result you want. The road is paved step by step. I'm not in a rush. Su-yi gave a shrug with a relaxed look. It's good that you know. When they left Great Magician Camilla's tower, the sky was already dark. Seeing that Great Magician Camilla had rejected his invitation again, Su-yi didn't insist. He parted ways with Great Magician Camilla and headed to the most lively night market in Banta City. While walking, Su-yi thought of good news he received today, and his mood was very good. First was Kennard's strong abilities, allowing Su-yi to give him many matters of the company. This made it much easier for Su-yi, allowing him to have more time and energy to invest in the research that he valued the most. He could even spend more time with Steele, so she wouldn't complain that he didn't spend enough time with her. Next was the 2 pieces of good news he received from great magician Camilla. Compared to this, suit he didn't care that much about when the Sorcerers Guild would pass the magic patents. Because after releasing new products during this time, suit he found a fact more and more. It was that compared to the magic array that was used as a power source, the mechanical design was more important. The Frestac Chamber of Commerce's magic machines were much better than the magic machines of other companies in terms of quality and performance, because Su he had used his mechanical knowledge to make all kinds of exquisite and practical designs. Of course, this didn't mean that magic array research wasn't important. For example, the miniaturization of the storm array had a very strong meaning. Not only had great magician Camilla miniaturized the storm array, he had also kept most of the power of the storm array, allowing the magic array to have more than enough power. Like this, he only needed to combine this magic array with the engine shell that Camby and the other dwarves had developed, and it was very likely that they would be able to develop a magic wind engine. There was no need to mention the significance of developing this engine. Moreover, with the development of this engine, there would be another industry that was very important and indispensable to modern industrial civilization. As long as this industry was developed, the industrial system of the signs would naturally be established. He lowered his head to look at the uneven street that was left behind by the light coming from the windows and revealed a faint smile. When this industry was developed, he would definitely erect street lamps on the streets of Banna City as soon as possible, chasing away all the darkness outside the spots of light. Chapter 230. A rather rare double-horse carriage quickly drove out of Banna City's west gate. The wheels rolled over the falling rain road and quickly headed in the direction of the falling rain valley. He looked away from the road project in the outskirts of Banna City and turned to look over the people in the carriage. Finally, he looked at Sophia sitting next to Steele and Agnes and suddenly revealed a smile. Sophia immediately looked at him. "What are you smiling at?" He shook his head. "No, don't misunderstand. I'm just curious. Why did you insist on coming with us? The falling rain valley is close to 60 kilometers away, and even with the road, it isn't a comfortable thing to go back and forth. I feel that staying in Banna City is a better choice." "Humph, I like it. What can you do about it?" Sophia said with a stiff neck. He shook his head, thinking that he indeed couldn't do anything about it. But he was very curious why Sophia was still staying in Banna City and wasn't willing to return to Anvilmar City. When Hank Wilson left, she wasn't willing to go with him, so it could be said that she wanted to be with Kennard. But now that Kennard was determined to stay in New Flyer as the general manager, he wouldn't leave Banna City for a long time, so it wasn't right for Sophia to continue staying here. Of course, Sui couldn't directly ask this question, otherwise it would be chasing Sophia away. "Chairman, Sophia, is this willful? I ask you to forgive her." Kennard beside Sue, E said in an apologetic voice. Without waiting for Sue, E to respond, Sophia glared at him again. She pointed at Kennard and stomped her foot as she shouted, "Big brother, you're actually not helping me. Now that you've become his subordinate, do you want to side with him? You don't even want to help your little sister?" Kennard looked up. "I'll help whoever is reasonable. The chairman is right. We're going out for the company's business, so why do you insist on coming with us?" "So what if it's official business?" Sophia snorted coldly. "Then again, I'm not with you. I'm with Big Sister Steele and Big Sister Agnes. You can't control me." After saying this, Sophia grabbed Steele and Agnes' hands without any hesitation, with a look of provocation on her face. Kennard knitted his brows. Because Sophia had pulled Steele and Agnes in, he couldn't reprimand her. However, Steele and Agnes' reactions were outside of Sophia's expectations. Steele was still all right. She only furrowed her brows slightly and shook her head helplessly. She sighed and looked as if she could not do anything about Sophia. Agnes took her hand out of Sophia's grasp and seriously said while looking at her, "Young Miss Sophia, I'm on a business trip with the chairman this time, and have some business to take care of, so please don't bother me. Obstruct? Sophia never thought that Agnes would say such impolite words, so she looked at Agnes with wide eyes. You're actually saying that I'm obstructing you? Big sister Agnes, you're making me too sad. Sad? Agnes looked at Sophia and then turned to ask Sue. Chairman, you said that humans would cry when they are sad, but she isn't crying right now. That means she isn't sad, right? After saying this, he turned to Sophia and said with a serious expression, Young Miss Sophia, the reason why we elves didn't like to interact with humans before was because humans like to lie. If you really want to be friends with me, I hope you won't lie to me. I'm very unhappy. Seeing Sophia blinking her eyes and not knowing what to do, Sue almost couldn't help laughing. For a little girl like Sophia, who had been spoiled since she was young and had become very willful, other people's words really didn't have any effect on her. If he wanted to control her, perhaps it really would have to be a natural idiot like Agnes. The expression on Kennard's face was also very interesting. He was the most familiar with Sophia's willful personality that was close to being unreasonable. Normally, even his father couldn't control her, but now she had been rendered speechless by Agnes' words. He couldn't help wanting to laugh. Of course, this was based on the fact that Agnes was an elf. Otherwise, even if it was Steele who was also a human girl that Sophia loved, it would definitely make Sophia unhappy. Perhaps she would even directly talk back to her. Seeing Sophia's blank face reveal an aggrieved expression and her little mouth pouting, Steele revealed a faint smile and first explained to Agnes. Agnes, humans won't always cry when they are sad. Some people might be sad, but you won't be able to see it from their appearance. Some people will show a sad expression, and only people who are sad to a certain degree will truly cry. Is that so? Agnes looked at Sue with a look of inquiry. It's like this. Seeing Sophia reveal an aggrieved expression, Sue could only help her smooth things over. When I said before that humans would cry when they are sad, that was just a general description. As for the specific situation, it needs to be analyzed and can't be generalized. For example, even if some humans cry, that doesn't mean they are sad. There are even some people who cry when they are happy, so it's impossible to tell if a human is sad just by looking at whether they cry or not. It's like this. Agnes gave a soft nod. After thinking for a bit, she couldn't help saying in an emotional voice, humans really are complicated. If we elves have any emotions, we will definitely reveal them. Hearing this, Sophia immediately forgot her aggrieved expression and curiously asked, Then, big sister Agnes, have you ever been sad and cried before? Agnes carefully thought for a bit before nodding. I remember when I was young, I saw a flower gradually wither away, so I cried from sadness. Everyone in the carriage was speechless. Sophia was stunned for a bit before softly saying in an emotional voice, Big sister Agnes, so you were this sensitive. But if you cried from sadness just because a flower withered and died, wouldn't you be sad and cry often? Agnes shook her head. No, I won't now. Because under the guidance of the elder, I understood that the birth and death of any living being is a natural law. This is a very normal matter, and there is no need to be sad about it. I think that even if you all died in front of me, I wouldn't cry from sadness. Everyone was speechless again. Although this was the nature of the elves, Agnes saying this in front of everyone made them feel that she was too cold and heartless. Sue couldn't help asking, Agnes, if I had died in front of you right now, you wouldn't cry from sadness? Agnes looked at Sue with a bit of surprise. Chairman, according to a human's lifespan, you still have a long time before you die. I'm saying if because life is filled with accidents. If I died in front of you because of an accident, would you calmly accept it? Sue didn't give up as he kept asking. Steele knit his brows as he looked at Sue thinking about it. He didn't say what he wanted to say. He looked at Agnes and waited for her reply. Under everyone's gaze, Agnes seriously thought for a bit before replying, I think. This should depend on what kind of accident it is. If Chairman was killed by an enemy, then I would be angry and would find the enemy who killed you to take revenge for you. Because you're my friend, doing these things is the responsibility of a friend. Then what if you weren't killed by an enemy, but rather because of an accident that wasn't man-made. For example, being killed by a rock falling from the sky, or even more normal, dying from an illness? Sui continued to ask. If it's like this, Agnes thought about it again. This should be the normal birth, old age, sickness, and death that the elder mentioned. Any living being will experience it, so I don't think I'll be sad. Hearing this reply, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Steele gave Sue a naughty wink. How is it? Respected Chairman Sue, are you very disappointed? Sue grabbed the clothes on his chest and revealed an exaggerated, sorrowful expression. He looked up at the sky and said with a sigh, I'm not just disappointed, I'm simply heartbroken. I thought that my relationship with Agnes was already very good, but I never thought that she wouldn't be sad even if I suddenly died. She wouldn't even shed a single tear. I'm just too much of a failure. Seeing the other people in the carriage laugh because of Su Yi's actions, Agnes had a strange look on her face. Steele saw the confusion on Agnes' face and explained to her with a smile. The horse carriage continued to move forward while the three girls chatted and Su Yi and Kennard discussed the work arrangements for the company. After 3 hours, they finally slowly entered the falling rain valley. This was Kennard and Sophia's first time coming to the falling rain valley. Although when they were in Banta City, many people had described the falling rain valley to them. After personally seeing it, the two of them were still shocked by the magnificent and beautiful scene in front of them. Chairman, this really is a large move. Kennard couldn't help praising. I believe that anyone who is suspicious of you, as long as you bring them here to take a look at this falling rain valley, all their suspicions will vanish like smoke in thin air. Oh, this means that before you saw the falling rain valley, you had some doubts about me in your heart? Su teased with a smile. Kennard laughed. Of course I'm an exception. If I still had any doubts about you, I wouldn't have taken the initiative to become the general manager. That's more like it. Su reached out his hand to make an inviting gesture. Then Your Excellency, as the new general manager, let me show you the true strength of our new flyer. Chapter 231. The development of the Falling Rain Valley had already begun before the Falling Rain Road opened, and it had been close to 2 months since the Falling Rain Road opened. Compared to last time, when Su came here with Chairman Pompey, the current Falling Rain Valley was much more complete. Whether it was the living area or the industrial area, it was much bigger than before. The current Falling Rain Valley had truly become the production base of the new flyer. First was the steel mill that was the foundation of the heavy industry. Now that the second furnace had been built, once the initial tests were completed, the monthly output of the steel mill would surpass 100,000 tons. But as the magic machines became more popular in the Lampari Kingdom, adding in the cooperation with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, there were more and more companies producing magic machines in Banta City. There was more and more demand for the various alloys produced by the Shinfei steel mill, so even 100,000 tons wouldn't be enough. Moreover, as the use of alloys became more widespread, more and more companies realized that these alloys had better properties than normal iron. So other than the magic machines, there were many other companies that had a strong demand for these alloys. Just last month, even if they ignored the new flyer's demand, the orders for these alloys added up to over 50,000 tons. It even surpassed the output of the steel mill. If it wasn't for this, Su wouldn't have had Chief Saluka and Chief Monto build the second furnace this quickly. If the second furnace was put into production, the monthly output could satisfy all the current demand. Just this steel mill alone would be able to generate a large profit of several 100,000 gold coins each month. Moreover, the steel mill wasn't the only factory that could earn money in the Falling Rain Valley. As the Falling Rain Valley was gradually opened up, a large number of factories were gradually completed. Su had already moved most of the production lines from the 2 workshops in the Santa Manor. It was different from before, where different production lines were squeezed into a single workshop. This time, Su directly separated the production lines of different products. Each production line had its own workshop, which was several times more spacious than before. At the same time, because of the improvement of the space, Sue was equipped with one or even several production lines for each different product, thus greatly increasing the output. For example, the most popular thing in Banta City and the surrounding cities was the magic bread maker. So Sue directly increased the production line from before by 4 lines, increasing the production from around 10,000 units to over 30,000 units a month. For this, Sue had recruited 100 more workers for the magic bread maker workshop. Adding in the automatic magic rice cooker workshop, the magic refrigerator workshop, the magic air conditioner workshop, and other workshops that were in high demand, the Frestac Chamber of Commerce had recruited over 1,000 workers in the past few months. Right now, there were close to 2,000 workers in the various workshops of the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's household magic machine factory. And this was only the number of human workers. Because of the hard work of Chief Saluka and Chief Monto, there were many dwarves from other dwarven tribes that had moved to the Falling Rain Valley. There were over 3,000 dwarves, and there were close to 1,000 dwarves working in the New Flyer factories. Adding in the 100 elven workers from the Night Song tribe, there were over 1,000 workers from other races in the factories under the New Flyers name, taking up over 1/3 of the total workforce. Not to mention the Lampari Kingdom. This situation was unprecedented in the signs. The other companies would only hire a few dwarven craftsmen, but the New Flyer had hired close to 1,000 at once. It was already very rare for other people to see an elf in their lifetime, but the New Flyer had stuffed over 100 elves into a single tire workshop. Even if Kennard was considered knowledgeable and already knew about this, so he was mentally prepared. When he saw the dwarves running all over the place in the Falling Rain Valley, he was still stunned and had a look of shock on his face. "Chairman, I really want to know, where did you find all these dwarves? Not to mention that even the proud elves of the legends have come to our company to do simple work. Do you have some kind of special charm?" Huh. You're not the first person to ask this question. I only have one explanation for this. It's very simple. It's because I'm handsome. Sue gave a narcissistic look while laughing. Kennard wanted to roll his eyes at Sue, but the good education he had received since he was young made him endure this kind of disrespectful behavior. After being led around each factory by Sue, Kennard couldn't help being filled with shock. Actually, before coming to Banta City, he had already gained a bit of understanding of the New Flyer through some channels. Although Hannes respected Sue very much and was very optimistic about the development of the New Flyer, even Hannes had to admit that the New Flyer was only a small company in Banta City. It couldn't even be considered a second-rate company in the entire Lampari Kingdom. So at this time, Kennard still had a bit of contempt for the New Flyer in his heart. But after coming to Banta City and seeing the changes that the New Flyer had brought to Banta City, Kennard found that his understanding of the New Flyer was just too shallow. Perhaps the New Flyer couldn't compare to a first-class company like the Walmart Chamber of Commerce in terms of strength, but no matter what product the New Flyer made, it could create a trend in Banta City and the surrounding cities, even creating an industrial chain. This was something that the Walmart Chamber of Commerce couldn't do no matter what. Now that he came to the Falling Rain Valley and personally saw the various workshops and the orderly production scene, Kennard's understanding of the New Flyer was refreshed once again. Just based on the scale of this production base, those people who looked down on the New Flyer might have made a mistake in their judgment. Actually, the New Flyer wasn't weak at all. Not to mention that there was a magnificent steel mill in the Falling Rain Valley. Personally seeing the molten iron flowing out of the furnace, Kennard was certain in his heart. Even if there was only this steel mill, if it continued developing, the New Flyer would definitely become a first-class company in the kingdom. Connecting this to the grand layout of the Falling Rain Valley production base, Kennard's admiration for Sue became even stronger. If it was said that he felt that Hannes' evaluation of Sue was a bit exaggerated at first, now he even felt that Hannes' evaluation was too conservative. Sue naturally didn't know that just bringing Kennard around the Falling Rain Valley and letting him familiarize himself with the factories under the company as the general manager, as well as letting him meet the people in charge, would actually give him such a deep sense of recognition. After giving Kennard to Chief Saluka and the others to take care of, Su-E went to the tire factory alone. According to his agreement with Elder Alicia, this batch of 100 elven workers would receive special training in the new flyer. After observing the results, he would decide what to do next. It had already been several months since the elf had started working in the new flyer factory. After Su-E observed them, he was certain that some changes had occurred to the elves, so he decided to take this chance when he was going back to the elven tribe with Agnes to bring them back for Elder Alicia to take a look. However, the tire factory's production was very heavy, and suddenly taking away 100 elven workers would have a large impact. So Su-E finally decided to bring 10 elven workers back for Elder Alicia to appraise. When the group arrived at the tire factory, because Sophia refused to leave after seeing the 100 elves, Su-E could only helplessly have Steele and Agnes stay behind to take care of the selection. Now that close to an hour had passed, Su-E returned to the tire factory and found that there were already 10 elven workers standing by Agnes' side. Seeing the 10 elven workers automatically standing in a row beside Agnes and standing in a very orderly manner without moving at all, Su-E couldn't help nodding his head in satisfaction. Compared to the undisciplined elves before, the current 10 elves were undoubtedly much more disciplined. Moreover, the elves' pursuit of perfection was still preserved. When they stood in a row, the distance between each person was exactly the same. Looking at them from the side, one could see that their 20 feet were in a perfect line. After noticing these 2 points, Su-E was a bit speechless. He was only following Elder Alicia's request to train the discipline of the elves, but looking at the current situation, it seemed like he had trained these elves into qualified soldiers. Compared to their undisciplined elves before, the difference was a bit too big. He didn't know what Elder Alicia would think after seeing them. "Sir Chairman, it's the 10 of them." Seeing Su-E walk over, Agnes immediately came forward to greet him. The other clansmen all said that they were the ones with the best performance during this time. Su-E nodded. Of course, he understood what it meant to have the best performance. Because they had a conflict with the human workers in the household magic machine workshop, these elves had a bit of anger in their hearts. No matter what work they did, they wanted to perform better than the human workers. Since these 10 elves were recognized as the ones with the best performance, other than having enough discipline, they could be considered the elven workers with the best skills. Su-E thought about it, but he found that he couldn't connect an elf to an experienced worker with a tool no matter what. This was just too strange. Stopping his mind from thinking about this, Su-E revealed a smile to the 10 elven workers. "Very good. I think that Elder Alicia will be very happy to see you now. But I'm not certain if the Beastmen will be happy to see you." Chapter 232. You want to negotiate with the Beastmen? Elder Alicia looked at Su-E in surprise. "Why? If I said that I wanted to solve the problem of the falling rainforest water source, would Elder Alicia believe me?" Su-E said with a faint smile. Elder Alicia looked at Su-E for a while before shaking her head. "I'm afraid I won't believe you. Because you said it last time, you are a human merchant and you won't do things that don't benefit you." Su-E laughed. "You really are wise. If your clansmen were as wise as you wouldn't need to spend so much effort to train them." Elder Alicia looked at the 10 elven workers Su-E brought back and said with a soft sigh, "Actually, before the race wars, although we elves were stubborn and lazy, it wasn't as serious as it is now. But now that we've lived in the forest for thousands of years, our clansmen have lost many of their advantages from before." "Then, Elder Alicia, do you think that these clansmen have changed after my special training?" Su-E asked. Elder Alicia looked at the 10 elves for a while before saying with a nod, "It should be a large change. Although I can't see the specific effects right now, I feel that their performance will be much better than if they stayed in the tribe. Let's return to the topic from before. I still can't see what benefits there are in negotiating with the Beastmen. Because the problem of the Sandy River doesn't just trouble your tribe, it has even affected downstream, affecting Banda City. According to the predictions of the people of Banda City who understand a river, if the Sandy River isn't cared for, it is very likely that in 10 to 20 years, the Sandy River will become a large hidden danger. Once there are heavy rains in the summer, there will be catastrophic floods. Floods. Elder Alicia seemed to have thought of something as her expression changed. That is indeed a very terrifying matter. No wonder you place such importance on this matter. But why do you want to bring these 10 people with you? The relationship between the beastmen and us elves has always been bad. The beastmen of the Black Rice Plateau had many conflicts with our Night Song tribe because of the Sandy River's water source. If the beastmen see these 10 tribesmen, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to your negotiation. Because if we want to completely solve the water problem, we need the help of the elves. If you can't take this opportunity to reconcile the relationship between your two clans, I'm afraid that if you want to completely control Sandy River, you'll have to use some means that I don't want to see. He said helplessly. You're not willing to use your methods? Elder Ligia took a deep look at Sue-E, but she didn't keep asking. However, Elder Alicia agreed to Su-Yi's request. If they could completely solve the Sandy River's water source problem, not only would it solve the hidden danger of Bana City, it would also solve the water problem of the Night Song tribe. Elder Alicia naturally hoped that Sue-E would succeed. After settling this matter, Sue-E and Elder Alicia came to the plastic production workshop of the Night Song tribe. Compared to when Sue-E came last time, the elves in charge of producing plastic were much more focused compared to before. There wasn't anything that was particularly sloppy at all. It seemed like after Sue-E left last time, Elder Alicia had taught the elves a good lesson so that they wouldn't lose face in front of Sue-E again. But even if there was progress, it was still lacking compared to the efficiency and organization of human workers. Elder Alicia had the 10 elves that Sue-E brought back join the plastic production line, immediately displaying a concentration that far surpassed the other elves. The other elves were still a bit unconvinced when they saw Sue-E because they didn't understand why Elder Alicia would send their clansmen to work for a human and accept his orders. For the proud elves, this was simply an insult to them. But after seeing how the 10 elves worked, the unconvinced and even anger in the hearts of the elves instantly disappeared. These 10 elves were clearly the same as everyone else. But after working in this human's factory for a few months, their performance was this outstanding after they came back. Although the elves were proud, they definitely wouldn't deny this fact. Now that the facts were in front of them, the humans were indeed much better than the elves in this matter. The unconvinced feeling in their hearts towards Sue-E naturally faded. Regarding Elder Alicia's painstaking efforts, the elves of the Night Song tribe naturally understood. So after seeing the performance of the 10 elves, the rest of the elves actually directly requested Elder Alicia to go to Sue-Yi's factory to receive training. Chairman Sue, what do you think? Can your factory accept more clansmen to receive special training? Elder Alicia didn't immediately respond to the request of the elves. Instead, she turned her head and asked Sue-E. Sue-E looked at the elves who were surging with emotions, pondered for a moment, and replied, Elder Alicia, actually I came this time hoping to persuade you to let more elves leave this sealed forest and live in our human society. One of the more suitable options is to let them work in our factory and familiarize themselves with the environment. So you agree? Elder Alicia asked. Sue-E nodded. Elder Alicia, actually what I want to say is that just relying on this simple and crude plastic production line is far from being able to meet the requirements. Do you know how many orders for tires we had before I came here? Looking at your expression, it should be a lot. Elder Alicia asked curiously. Not a lot, it's a lot. Sue-E emphasized. Let me tell you, right now, the backlog of tire orders in our Chamber of Commerce is over 100,000. Elder Alicia opened her eyes wide in surprise. There's actually that many? But we can only produce less than 10,000 in a month. That's why we have to expand production. Sue-E nodded. And if we want to expand production, just relying on this small space and manpower is far from enough. So my suggestion is to move all the elves out of the tribe and have them work in the plastic and rubber processing factory that I have already prepared in the Falling Rain Valley. I have even prepared to develop a series of magic machines that are required for plastic processing. Compared to here, the production efficiency will definitely be greatly increased. Elder Alicia looked at Sue E and suddenly smiled. Chairman Sue, you have prepared everything so well. Are you not planning to give me a chance to refuse? Sue E smiled and waved his hand. I'm only making preparations on my side. It's just that to what extent Elder Alicia will agree to, that will depend on your decision. According to the popular saying among the humans, are you trying to provoke me? Elder Alicia smiled slightly. She turned her head and looked at her tribe members who were still busy for a while and sighed softly. I have to admit that ever since I started working with you and let the tribe members take on the resin processing job, although everyone is very busy every day, it seems very fulfilling. The entire tribe seems to be filled with vitality. Do you know? In these 3 months, the tribe actually gave birth to 2 newborns. This is a miracle that hasn't happened in the past 1,000 years. Suyi's expression suddenly became very strange. Last time, he heard from Elder Alicia that the Night Song tribe only gave birth to 1 newborns in the past 10 years. Now, in 3 months, they gave birth to 2 newborns. Although it was still far from being comparable to the humans and any other races, it was already a great improvement. But the reason for this change, wasn't it because the hormones in these proud and reserved elves became restless because of their frequent work, making them more willing to make babies? Of course, there was an even more important factor. That was, after accepting the resin processing job from Sue E, the Night Song tribe received a large amount of remuneration from New Flyer. Elder Alicia wasn't interested in human gold coins, but she still had a great need for human resources. Therefore, she let Sue E exchange the remuneration for corresponding resources. Previously, although the elves of the Night Song tribe could be self-sufficient in the falling rainforest, the resources in the falling rainforest were limited. They could only support less than 1,000 elves. Any more, and there would be problems. This was the wisdom that the elves had accumulated over a long period of time. However, it also severely limited the total number of elves in the Night Song tribe. It was also one of the important reasons why their birth rate was so low. Now that the New Flyer provided all kinds of living resources, the elves of the Night Song tribe had more resources. They could indeed give birth to more elves. So, you agree to my proposal? Sui asked. Yes, I agree for now. However, it is impossible for all of our tribe members to leave at once. After all, this is our home that we have lived in for thousands of years. Elder Alicia said, how about this? Those 100 tribe members will still work in your factory. I will also choose another 300 tribe members to work in the plastic and rubber processing factory. As for the specific arrangements, it will be up to you to decide. Seeing that Elder Alicia agreed so readily, Sue E couldn't help but laugh. Everything will be arranged by me? Elder Alicia, you are putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders. Elder Alicia blinked her eyes. Like a little girl, she revealed a playful smile to Sue E. Isn't this what you asked for? Chapter 233. 2 days later, Sue E, Steele, Agnes, and the 10 elves from before appeared in a small town on the outskirts of the Black Rice Wasteland. This small town, named Zamora, was built by the Sandy River. It was the human town closest to the Black Rice Wasteland. Although the humans had ruled all the signs, the other races hadn't completely died out. The Beastmen still had the strongest strength. Even if they couldn't pose any threat to the human forces, they could still control a piece of land that belonged to them. Of course, the Black Rice Wasteland didn't have any value to the humans of the signs because this wasteland was really a wasteland. There wasn't a single piece of land that could be cultivated. There wasn't a single human country that was bored enough to come to the Beastmen to steal this piece of land. Although the Beastmen didn't know magic, most of them had strong bodies and strong individual battle strength. If they really came to steal the living space of the Beastmen, forcing the Beastmen to go all out against the humans, the losses wouldn't be small. This kind of losing business, of course no humans would do it. When Su Yi's group entered this small town that only had 2 streets and was less than 200 meters from east to west, Chairman Cruz of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and Chairman Renursa of the Renekton Chamber of Commerce, who had been waiting for them, noticed them and immediately came forward. "Sorry, I made you wait." Sui's apology was, of course, mainly for Chairman Renursa. Chairman Renursa had a strong body, and his smile was like the sound of a bell, looking very heroic. "Aha, it's nothing. We just arrived, and we're organizing the motorcade. We were waiting for Chairman Su's group to arrive before we set off together." Chairman Renursa nodded to Steele beside Su before his eyes fell onto Agnes and the 10 elves behind Su slightly knitting his brows. "Chairman Su, are these elves also coming?" If one was to talk about who had seen elves the most in Bana City before Su it was definitely Chairman Renursa. Because the Renekton Chamber of Commerce had always been doing business with the Beastmen tribes of the Black Rice Wasteland, Chairman Renursa would often come to the Black Rice Wasteland and would even be a guest of the Beastmen tribes. In the Beastmen tribes, he had seen the elves a few times. But because of this, he knew better than anyone that the relationship between the Beastmen and the elves wasn't good. Even if it wasn't to the point where they would start fighting as soon as they met, there would definitely be sparks flying everywhere. It would be impossible for them to even communicate normally. When Sui told him that he wanted to follow his caravan to the Beastmen tribe in the Black Rice Wasteland, he didn't care too much about it and readily agreed. But now he found out that Sui wanted to bring the elves with him, which was a big problem. Sui naturally saw Chairman Renursa's worries, so he said with a smile, "Chairman Renursa, please don't worry. When we reach the Beastmen tribe's territory, these elves will use their shadow concealment spell and won't appear unless it's necessary. It's fine if it's like this." Chairman Renursa nodded. He couldn't help looking at Sui with a bit of surprise in his eyes. This Chairman Sui, he could actually have 11 elves as his bodyguards. It really was like the rumors. He had a special relationship with the elves of the falling rainforest. But he didn't know that he had misunderstood. When Chairman Renursa and Sui finished talking, Chairman Cruz on the side came over and complained to Sui, "I say, Chairman Sui, there are no roads from Bana City to here, so I'm really tired from running all the way here. You had me run all the way here. If there aren't any benefits, I won't do it." Sui laughed. "You're right. I had you come because I wanted to see how the road between Bana City and the Black Rice Wasteland should be built." As soon as his voice fell, Chairman Cruz, Chairman Renursa, and Steele all looked at Sui with wide eyes. "Chairman Sui, are you joking?" Chairman Cruz couldn't help saying in a loud voice, "What can you do with building this road? To make it easier for the Beastmen to cause trouble in our human territory?" Sui gave a sigh and shook his head. "Chairman Cruz, you've worked with me for this long. Could it be that you don't know that I'm a person who won't do things without benefits?" Chairman Cruz knit his brows and doubtfully looked at Sui. "I know that you won't do things without benefits, but why can't I see any benefits in building this road?" Sui looked up at the sky. "I'll tell you slowly on the way." The Renekton Chamber of Commerce's motorcade was very large, with 13 horse carriages. Based on the mountain of goods in the horse carriages, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce shouldn't be doing business with just a single Beastmen tribe. The relationship between the Beastmen and humans wasn't that good, so if this caravan rashly entered the Beastmen's territory, there was a high chance of encountering them. So the Renekton Chamber of Commerce was different from most of the other companies in Bana City. They had specially set up a company's guards and hired mercenaries to guard the motorcade. After Sui sat in the horse carriage, he looked at the mercenaries guarding the sides of the motorcade and couldn't help praising. "Just based on their appearance, I can tell that these guards are all veterans who have been through hundreds of battles." Chairman Renursa, if your company's guards were taken out, they wouldn't be worse than the regular army of the kingdom. Chairman Renursa revealed a proud smile. "Actually, these guards are veterans who have retired from the kingdom's army, so each guard has rich battle experience. I dare say that as long as they are equipped with the same equipment as the kingdom's army, a single small team of them would be able to destroy 2 small teams of the kingdom's army. No wonder your company has been doing business on the Black Rice Wasteland for so long, but there has never been a problem." Sui praised. "If there has never been a problem, then it must be a lie." Chairman Renursa laughed. Chairman Renursa said with a smile, "There are over 100 large and small beastmen tribes on the Black Rice Wasteland. Although our company has established relations with most of the beastmen tribes, there are always some blind beastmen that come knocking. We can't stop them every time. Just 4 months ago, a caravan that came here was robbed by an unknown beastman tribe. It was a good thing those beastmen were smart and only stole the goods and didn't hurt anyone. Otherwise, our losses would have been large." Only stole the goods and didn't hurt anyone? He felt a bit strange. The beastmen know the rules this well? Do they dare not know? Chairman Renursa coldly snorted and said, "In the beginning, these beastmen would also injure and even kill people during their robberies. But every time this happened, I would request the kingdom's army stationed here to massacre the robbing beastman tribe. After a few times, these beastmen began to understand the rules. Even if they rob again, they would only target the goods and wouldn't hurt anyone. Even if they captured someone, they would at most ask for a ransom. If they really wanted to kill someone, they wouldn't have the guts." He felt even more strange. Since they don't dare to kill, then wouldn't it be fine if you didn't pay them a ransom? Chairman Renursa gave a hollow laugh. "This can be considered a rule. As long as the beastmen don't casually kill people, the kingdom's army won't casually make a move. If we don't pay the ransom, although the beastmen won't kill anyone, they won't let anyone go. You let the workers of the company be locked up in the beastmen tribe for a long time. After a long time, they would be crippled even if they were saved." Sui thought about it before asking, "This means that this rule isn't just for the beastmen, it's also for you?" It's pretty much like this. The human caravans that do business with the beastmen on the Black Rice Wasteland all follow this tacit rule. Anyway, we earn quite a bit from doing business with the beastmen, so it's fine if we bleed a bit." He couldn't help shaking his head. He thought that the rules of the beastmen and human caravans were filled with a barbaric aura. It was no wonder the beastmen were still looked down on by the humans and other races. It was because their level of civilization was just too low. When Sui was planning to reconsider his strategy for negotiating with the beastmen tribes, Chairman Cruz came over. "Chairman Su, can you tell me now, what are the benefits of building a road between Banda City and the Black Rice Wasteland?" Sui looked at him before pointing at Chairman Renursa, not mentioning anything else. At least there are benefits for Chairman Renursa. "Of course." President Renursa laughed. Chairman Renursa laughed. "If there is a road, our caravans can go back and forth with less effort." Chairman Cruz, actually, even if Chairman Su didn't say anything, I was already considering if I should have you build a road for our company. It doesn't need to be far. It just needs to reach Samara Town. "Isn't that far?" Chairman Cruz stared at him. "It's close to 100 kilometers from Banta City to Samara Town, right? Even if it's only as wide as the Falling Rain Road, it would still cost close to 300,000 gold coins. You're willing to pay that much? 300,000 gold coins. It isn't that much. If we build a toll booth, even if we can't get back the cost, we won't lose that much." Chairman Renursa thought about it before suddenly slapping his thigh. "All right, it's set like this. Chairman Cruz, when we return to Banda City, I'll discuss how to build this road with you. What do you think?" Chairman Cruz and Sui were both surprised. It was Sui who wanted to discuss how to build the road with Chairman Cruz. So why did Chairman Renursa suddenly decide to build a road? Sui thought about it before saying with a smile, "Chairman Renursa, it is a good thing that you can see the benefits of building a road. But the road I'm talking about has to reach the Black Rice Wasteland. It's far from enough to just reach Samara Town." This time, it was Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renursa who looked at Sui in shock. This fellow actually wanted to build a road to the beastman's doorstep? Was he crazy? Chapter 234. Sui looked up at the small hill that seemed a bit out of place on the Black Rice Wasteland. Then he pointed at a place not far from the hill that seemed like a small village made of wooden houses and asked Chairman Renursa, "That should be the Valar tribe, right?" Chairman Renursa looked at Sui in astonishment. "Chairman Sui, how do you know? Could it be that you've been to the Black Rice Wasteland before?" "I haven't been here before, but I know that there are good things near the Valar tribe." Sue, he faintly smiled and pointed at the small hill as he said to Chairman Cruz, "Didn't you say that you didn't know what benefits there would be in building a road to the Beastmen tribe? Let me tell you, as long as we dig out a bit of the things under the small hill, we'll be able to earn back the money needed to build a road." Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renersa looked at the small hill in the distance. Chairman Renersa shook his head. "I've been here so many times, but I never knew what treasures were buried under the small hill." "That's right. If there were really good things, then wouldn't the Beastmen tribe have already dug it out and sold it? Why would they wait for you to dig it out?" Chairman Cruz also had a face of disbelief. First, they don't have the strength to dig out the treasures. Second, they don't know what treasures are down there. Even if they had the ability, they wouldn't dig it out. "Sue," he said, "now that I have the ability to dig out the treasures and also know what they can be used for, if they don't wait for me to dig it out, then who would?" Seeing that Sue didn't seem to be joking, Chairman Cruz knit his brows and asked, "Chairman Sue, what treasures are down there? Is it worth you making a trip to the Beastmen tribe?" Sue looked at Chairman Renersa. "Chairman Renersa, are you also interested?" Chairman Renersa thought for a bit and nodded. "Of course I'm interested. I've done business with the Beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland for so many years, but this is the first time I've heard of a treasure in this broken place. Chairman Sue, let's hear it. If it's something good, we can work together to dig it out and earn some money." "Okay," Sue deliberately said in front of him. Of course, he intended to pull him into the group. It would be difficult to do something under the noses of the Beastmen tribes on the Black Rice Plateau without someone familiar with this place. Chairman Renersa was the most suitable candidate that Sue had chosen. "According to the information I have now, if I'm not mistaken, there is actually a very rich non-ferrous metal vein hidden under that hill. The main minerals should be aluminum and copper ores, as well as some tungsten ores and a small amount of lead ores. If they were all mined, it would be very beneficial for industrial development. Even if we don't use it on magic machines, we can still use it in other places." "Stop!" President Cruz raised his hand and interrupted Sue. "I say, Chairman Sue, you've been talking for so long, but I don't understand a single word. I know about copper because it's needed to make copper coins, but what are non-ferrous metals? We're aluminum, tungsten, and lead ores. What are you talking about?" Chairman Renersa on the side was also confused. "That's right, I also know about copper ores, but what are the non-ferrous metals you're talking about? What are they like?" Sue was surprised, but then he remembered that there were very few non-ferrous metals in the signs. Apart from the copper ores that were mined to make copper coins, because the mechanical industry wasn't developed, there wasn't much use of iron. Not to mention the non-ferrous metals that hadn't been processed and didn't look as good as iron. I'm afraid I won't be able to explain the use of non-ferrous metals in a short time. Let's put it this way. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce is selling a ton of iron ore for 7 gold coins. Then do you know how much I'm willing to spend if they sell me a ton of copper ore?" Chairman Cruz knit his brows. Copper ore is mainly used to make copper coins, so the kingdom's government is very strict. Even if you want to buy it, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce wouldn't sell it to you. All right, I'll change the example. The aluminum ore price is too different, so let's talk about lead ore. For the same ton of lead ore, I'm willing to buy it for 20 gold coins." Chairman Cruz and Chairman Renersa raised their brows at the same time. "Is what you said true?" "Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you?" So he gave a soft snort. "Let me tell you, the non-ferrous metals have more uses than iron, and there's a large need for them in magic machines. Chairman Cruz, didn't you always want me to help you develop some large-scale construction magic machines? Our company couldn't develop them before because other than the bottleneck of the magic array research, it was also because of the lack of materials. Because we need these non-ferrous metals?" Chairman Cruz asked. "And it's just like that. Just relying on iron and steel alloys, we can't meet the requirements of large-scale construction magic machines." In fact, this sentence was very nonsensical. Ordinary steel was absolutely capable of making large road construction machines. But Sue, he wanted to pull the two of them into his group. He was bullying them since they didn't understand, so he could talk nonsense. As expected, Hearing Su Yi's response, Chairman Cruz nodded. And I understand now. But it doesn't matter what it's used for. It's fine as long as we know that these non-ferrous metals are valuable, since they're valuable things. Chairman Cruz looked at Chairman Renursa, and Chairman Renursa gave a cold snort. It's a waste to leave these good things in the beastman's territory. Anyway, those simple-minded beastmen won't understand the value of these things at all, so we might as well help them dig them out. So he laughed. He didn't know if this Chairman Renursa's personality was like this, or if it was because he had been in contact with beastmen for too long, so he was infected with their arrogant personality. But it was good that he agreed to join. It didn't matter what his personality was. Of course, if they wanted to mine non-ferrous metals under the eyes of the beastmen, they needed to properly discuss this. The three of them discussed this for a while before coming up with a preliminary plan. First, Chairman Renursa would bring the two of them into the Valar tribe, and then they would see the situation. After deciding on the preliminary plan, Su Yi came to Steel's side, who was wandering around the wasteland not far away. "What's the situation?" Su Yi asked. Steel's expression was serious as he shook his head. "It's not good. Look." Steel forcefully stepped on the ground, and there was a small hole in the ground. There was no water in the hole, only yellow sand. The wasteland has become like this. No wonder there is so much sand in the sandy river. Steel said in a deep voice. But I just asked Agnes and the others. They said that although the black rice wasteland was barren before, the ground was always covered in weeds. It wasn't as barren as it is now, like a desert. It should be because the beastmen overgrazed, causing the vegetation on the wasteland to dry up, causing soil erosion. Su Yi squatted down and grabbed the ground, grabbing a handful of fine sand. His fingers loosened slightly, and the fine sand poured down from the gaps of his fingers like flowing water. Feeling the sand flowing through his fingers, Su Yi's heart filled with emotions. This situation was very similar to the situation in the Northwest on Earth. When he was on Earth, he had visited a province in the Northwest because of a mechanical problem. When he saw the wasteland and the yellow sand everywhere, he was very shocked. He was very clear that if this situation wasn't taken care of, the entire land would turn into a desert and no one would be able to live in it. The black rice wasteland in front of him was already showing signs of becoming a desert. If he didn't take care of it, it wouldn't take long before this wasteland turned into a desert. At that time, not to mention the beastmen not being able to live here, even the Lampari kingdom that was closest to the black rice wasteland would be seriously affected. Compared to Earth, the signs had a large advantage in this aspect, which was the existence of the elves. The elves were known as the forest race. Even before the race wars, when they ruled the signs, the elves lived in cities made of large amounts of trees. At that time, the entire signs could be said to be covered in greenery. Not to mention a desert, there were very few places that weren't covered in forests. After a long period of time, the elves had a special inheritance and ability to cultivate plants. The current situation of the black rice wasteland was very troublesome on Earth, but in the eyes of the elves, it wasn't a problem at all. Su Yi looked around and didn't see any beastmen, so he softly called out, "Agnes." Agnes' figure quietly appeared beside Su Yi. Su Yi pointed at the area covered in sand and asked her, "How is it? Can you improve the environment?" "It's very simple." Agnes' confident reply made Su Yi feel relieved. Actually, the elders sent people to talk to the beastmen several decades ago, hoping that they could plant a forest on the black rice wasteland to improve the environment. But they were rejected by the beastmen. Su Yi looked at Agnes and thought that in the signs, the word forest could be used as a synonym for the elves. If the elves went to the beastmen and told them that they wanted to plant a forest in their territory, it would be no different from saying that they wanted to take over their territory. It would be strange if the beastmen agreed to it. But this time, the one who said that they wanted to plant trees wasn't an elf, but rather a human like Su Yi. He wondered how the beastmen would feel about this. Chapter 235. Valar Tribe's Chief Flaming. Valar tilted his large wolf head and looked at the three humans in front of him. His two wolf eyes were filled with doubt. He recognized Chairman Renursa because every once in a while, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce opened by the humans would bring large amounts of things that the tribe urgently needed, such as salt, iron, cloth, clothing, and other things that only humans could make. They would come here to trade. Although this human had used these things to trade for large amounts of precious furs and rare herbs from the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland, with both sides agreeing, this was a fair trade. Therefore, the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland were quite polite to Chairman Renursa. But this time, Chairman Renursa had not only come himself, he had also brought two unfamiliar humans. What surprised Chief Valar was that the younger and skinnier human actually said that he wanted to do business with the Valar tribe right from the start. Do business together? Humans and beastmen? This was simply a joke. All the races on the continent knew how cunning humans were. Because the beastmen didn't have high intelligence, they had been cheated countless times. So in the eyes of the beastmen, humans were scammers. As for human merchants, they were scammers among scammers. The reason why the Renekton Chamber of Commerce and other companies were able to do business with the beastmen in the Black Rice Wasteland was because these companies directly brought their goods to the beastmen. There was no room for deception. But even so, many beastmen were cheated several times and had their precious treasures exchanged with inferior goods by the human merchants. So when he heard Su-Yi say these words, Chief Valar immediately determined that Su-Yi was a big scammer. If he said that he wanted to do business with the Valar tribe, Chief Valar could try to believe him, but if he said to do business together, this was simply a joke. Based on Chairman Renursa's face, Chief Valar didn't directly send Su-Yi away. He acted like he was considering it before waving his hand and saying in a muffled voice, "We don't cooperate with humans. If you want to make a deal, first take out the goods you want to trade for me." Because of Chairman Renursa's reminder, Su-Yi wasn't surprised by Chief Valar's cold reaction. He smiled and continued, "Sir Chief, don't be in a hurry to refuse. Can you listen to the specific cooperation plan first?" Chief Valar impatiently snorted out 2 puffs of air from his nostrils. After thinking about it, he suppressed the irritation in his heart and snorted, "What cooperation plan? Isn't it just you humans trying to take advantage of us? If you still feel this way after hearing this plan, then I promise to leave immediately and not disturb you. But before that, I hope that you can listen of this plan. Actually, this plan is very beneficial to your tribe." Su-Yi said with the same faint smile. "Patriarch Valar, please allow me to speak," President Renursa suddenly said. Chairman Renursa suddenly said, "Chairman Su has a very good reputation in our Banda City, and the human merchants that have cooperated with him have all obtained great benefits, so you don't need to worry about him lying to you. Other than that, I want to tell you something that will shock you. It is that in the new flyer that Chairman Su opened, other than us human workers, there are also over 1,000 dwarven and elven workers." Dwarves and elves? Chief Valar's eyes widened, and his round eyes were filled with disbelief. How was that possible? I can imagine the dwarves working in your human merchant guild, but how could the elves put down their pride and work for a human like you? I don't believe it. If you don't believe me, there are 11 elven workers from our company waiting outside. I can call them in for you to personally verify it." Su-Yi said. Chief Valar narrowed his eyes as he looked at Su-Yi. After thinking for a bit, he shook his head. "Forget it. I don't like seeing those fellows with ugly faces all day long. All right, Chairman Su, since you've said this, tell me about your so-called cooperation plan." Seeing that Chairman Valar was finally moved, Su-Yi let out a sigh of relief and immediately explained his plan to him. According to Su-Yi's plan, the new flyer was planning to open a mine in the Valar tribe, using the non-ferrous metal veins near the Valar tribe. Because it consumed too much energy to transport the ores, the new flyer was planning to build a non-ferrous metal smelting factory here. Adding in the fact that the residue of the non-ferrous metal smelting factory could be used to make cement, they would also build a cement factory. To transport the refined non-ferrous metals out, the new flyer would work with the Renekton Chamber of Commerce and the Cruise Chamber of Commerce to build a road from Banda City to Samara Town. After that, They would first build a narrow road between Samara Town and the Valar tribe. As for whether they would build other roads, that would depend on the situation. So calculating it like this, the new flyer would have to invest in a mine, 2 factories, and a road in the Valar tribe, which was quite a large investment. But what benefits can our tribe obtain? What do you want to cooperate with us on? After hearing Su Yi's explanation, Chief Valar gave a snort. Human, I'm warning you. Since this mine you mentioned is in our Valar tribe's territory, we have the final say, and you can't do whatever you want. Now that I know about this good thing, if you can't satisfy me, don't think of cooperating with me. Of course I understand this. Su Yi revealed a faint smile. Since you can take the initiative to say the word cooperation, it means that you're already moved. Chief Valar, I understand that this non-ferrous metal mine is in your tribe's territory. That's why I made a special trip here to purchase this mine from you. You want to buy the entire mine? Chief Valar narrowed his eyes as a rare sly look appeared in his eyes. All right, human, how much are you planning to pay? I've heard that you humans spend a lot of money to buy an iron mine. Right, an iron mine can indeed sell for a lot of money among us humans. But Chief Valar, the mine I want to buy this time isn't iron. Rather, it produces non-ferrous metals. This kind of thing is rarely used in our human society, so it can't be sold for much. So for this mine, of course, I can't give you the same price as the iron mine. Su Yi revealed a bitter smile as he spoke. Chief Valar thought for a while. He thought about the fact that in human society, metals other than iron were rarely used. It seemed that this human called Su Yi wasn't lying to him. Even if you can't sell it for the same price as an iron mine, it can't be too cheap. Tell me, how much are you planning to pay? Chief Valar asked again. Su Yi couldn't help but smile. He thought that this Chief Valar was truly moved, who said that the orcs were all stubborn. At the very least, this chief in front of him was definitely greedy for money. Su Yi looked at President Renursa and President Cruz. The two of them nodded at him, indicating that he could make the decision. Su Yi nodded to show that he understood. He then stretched out his hand to Chief Valar. 500,000 gold coins. For a moment, Su Yi seemed to see countless little stars in Chief Valar's eyes. ####. 4 days later, Su Yi, President Cruz, and Steel returned to Banta City first. Agnes and the other 10 elves remained in the Black Rice Wasteland. According to Su Yi's request, they needed to investigate the terrain of the Black Rice Wasteland and draw a complete map of the Black Rice Wasteland. Other than investigating how to solve the problem of the Black Rice Wasteland's desertification, their most important task was to determine the distribution of all the Orcs tribes in the Black Rice Wasteland. According to Su Yi's plan, cooperating with the Valar tribe was only the first step for the new flyer to enter the Black Rice Wasteland. According to the information he had, the Black Rice Wasteland didn't just have a single non-ferrous metal mine near the Valar tribe. Actually, the Black Rice Wasteland was rich in minerals. According to preliminary estimates, it even surpassed all the non-ferrous metals in the Lampari Kingdom added together. As for why Su Yi knew this clearly, that was because the 5 dwarves that had been hired by Su Yi last year to explore the various mines of the Lampari Kingdom had finally returned. In this year of exploration, the 5 dwarves had gone in 5 different directions, carefully exploring every part of the Lampari Kingdom. One of the dwarves named Ram had explored to the west, covering the entire Black Rice Wasteland. It had to be said, the dwarves really did have high talent in this aspect. In this year, the 5 dwarves had explored every inch of the Lampari Kingdom, knowing all the underground mines like the back of their hands. When Su Yi had them go out to explore, they were mainly in charge of exploring the distribution of iron ores. But after the dwarves went out, they found that most of the iron ores in the kingdom had already been explored, and over half of them were being explored. So the 5 dwarves placed their attention on the non-ferrous metal mines that Su Yi had mentioned. The conclusion that they reached was that the Black Rice Wasteland had large amounts of non-ferrous metal mines. Even in the ore samples that Ram had brought back, Su Yi had found the existence of some rare earth elements. It was a good thing that there was a hidden danger in the Sandy River, so they had to control the geological environment of the Black Rice Wasteland upstream of the Sandy River. So Su-yi used this chance to come to the Black Rice Wasteland and seek cooperation with the Beastmen. Other humans might have psychological barriers to cooperating with other races, but Su-yi didn't have any. New Flyer had quite a few dwarves and a few elves as employees, so if there were a few more Beastmen, it didn't count for much. Of course, this cooperation was still in its initial stages. Their group stayed in the Valar tribe for 2 days, but Chief Valar insisted that there was no need to discuss without money. So Su-yi's group could only give up for now and return to Bana City to discuss their next step. It would cost around 300,000 gold coins to build the road from Bana City to Samara Town, and because the road between Samara Town and the Valar tribe was a bit narrower, adding in the fact that it was only 10 kilometers away, it wouldn't cost more than 20,000 gold coins. Other than that, adding in the 500,000 gold coins spent on the mine and some initial investments, Su-yi, Chairman Cruz, and Chairman Renursa decided to invest a total of 1 million gold coins. Because this matter was mainly led by Su-yi and Chairman Cruz, and Chairman Renursa didn't understand the prospects of the non-ferrous metal mines. In the end, New Flyer invested 600,000 gold coins and took 60% of the mine. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce invested 300,000 gold coins and took 30%. Finally, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce invested 100,000 gold coins and took 10%. As for the income from the road tolls, it was also arranged according to this share. Moreover, this was just the income from the mine. The non-ferrous metals smelting factory and the cement factory were all funded by New Flyer. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the Renekton Chamber of Commerce didn't have a share. Actually, Chairman Cruz had asked to invest in the non-ferrous metal smelting factory and the cement factory, but Su-yi had rejected him. This was because these two factories involved New Flyer's unique technology, so if they cooperated with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, it would definitely be leaked. Chairman Cruz naturally understood this, so after Su-yi rejected his request, he didn't keep pestering him. Because he had already finished discussing the matters on the road with Chairman Cruz after the horse carriage entered Bana City, Su-yi rejected Chairman Cruz's invitation to have dinner with Steel and rushed back to Steel's home with Steel. Because as soon as they entered the city, they received a shocking piece of news. Great Magician Camilla had suddenly announced the closing of the Magic Tower. Chapter 236. What? You don't understand why I'm closing the Magic Tower? Great Magician Camilla smiled as he looked at the two people rushing over. Su-yi and Steel both shook their heads. Of course we don't understand. Steel hugged Great Magician Camilla's arm with a look of concern. Grandfather, didn't you always say that the Magic Tower was your life's work and that you wanted to use it to study the mysteries of magic, becoming an archmagus or even a great archmagus? Why are you suddenly closing it now? Could it be that you want to give up on studying magic? Who said I'm giving up on studying magic? Great Magician Camilla glared at them. Then why are you closing the Magic Tower? Steel asked in a confused voice. This Magic Tower was built with great difficulty by you. If you close it, how are you going to study magic? Great Magician Camilla shook his head. He reached out his hand to pat Steel's head and said with a faint smile, Steel, your understanding of magic is still too shallow. Is there a rule that one has to study magic in a magic tower? For example, isn't Su-yi's Academy of Magic the same? Su-yi and Steel were stunned at the same time. Su-yi couldn't help asking, Your Excellency, Great Magician, you wouldn't be planning on going to the Academy of Magic to study magic, right? Great Magician Camilla looked at him. What? You don't welcome me? Su-yi made a gulong sound as he swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. He had a look of disbelief as he stared at Great Magician Camilla. Are you joking? The Academy of Magic is only studying magic arrays used in magic machines. If you come, I just want to study magic arrays used in magic machines. Is that not allowed? Great Magician Camilla stared at Su-yi as he asked this. Su-yi and Steel looked at each other, feeling that this was a bit unbelievable. Just last year, Great Magician Camilla had expressed his deep hatred for combining magic and business, even scolding Su-yi several times. Since the beginning of this year, Great Magician Camilla's attitude had gradually changed, and he began to agree to Su Yi's request. He cooperated with New Flyer and helped New Flyer with their research on magic machines. He even had the magicians of the Magic Tower help with the research, which helped Su Yi solve quite a few problems. But this was just Great Magician Camilla taking time out of his research to help. It was completely different from him joining the Academy of Magic. "Grandpa, is that true?" Steele asked in surprise. "Do you really intend to work at the Academy of Magic?" "Yes." Great Magician Camilla nodded with a serious expression, not looking like he was joking at all. He said to Su Yi, "Hey, brat, do you welcome me?" "Ah, welcome. Of course you're welcome." Seeing Great Magician Camilla's serious expression, Su Yi was pleasantly surprised as he kept nodding. "Your Excellency, Great Magician, if you're willing to join our Academy of Magic, that would be my honor and also our New Flyer's honor. But Your Excellency, Great Magician, I still don't understand. Why did you suddenly do this? Could it be that you suddenly closed the Magic Tower because of this decision?" Steele looked at Great Magician Camilla without blinking, her eyes filled with doubt. Seeing the confused expressions of the two of them, Great Magician Camilla knew that if he didn't explain himself, these two fellows wouldn't let him go today. He pointed at the stools to the side and gestured for them to sit down. "Where should I start?" After the three of them sat down, Great Magician Camilla fell into thought for a bit before suddenly asking Steele, "Steele, how long has it been since you went back to your hometown?" "Hometown?" Steele was stunned. After thinking for a bit, she replied, "The last time I went back was 3 months. "Oh no, it's been 4 months. "What is it?" "Grandfather, you're suddenly mentioning your hometown. Do you want me to go back with you?" "That's good. It's just outside the city, and it's not far. We can go whenever we want." "I didn't mean that." Great Magician Camilla shook his head. Great Magician Camilla shook his head. "Let me ask you, when you went back last time, did you notice any changes in your hometown?" "Changes in my hometown?" Steele slightly knit her brows. After thinking for a bit, she replied in a confused voice, "There weren't any changes." "Oh, if we're talking about changes, does second aunt's cousin giving birth to a son count?" "Although it counts, but it's not what I want to talk about." Great Magician Camilla slowly shook his head. Great Magician Camilla slowly shook his head. "If you go back now, you'll find that your hometown is completely different from before." "Completely different? It can't be that exaggerated, right?" Steele felt a bit strange. "Mildan Village has been like this since I was young. It hasn't changed at all." "That's because you haven't gone back to take a look and haven't seriously asked about it." Great Magician Camilla turned to look at Su. "Actually, the changes in Mildan Village are very big, and the reason for these changes is because of this kid. Because of Su Yi." Steele looked at Su Yi. Su Yi knit his brows to think before suddenly revealing a look of understanding. "I remember now, Mildan Village, right? I have an impression of this name. If I'm not wrong, it should be on the list of the first phase of the Bandit City renovation project. Last time Chairman Cruz seemed to have discussed it with me, this Mildan Village seemed to have been completely demolished." "Completely demolished?" Steele was surprised and couldn't help looking at Su Yi. "You didn't even tell me about such an important matter." Su Yi spread his hands with a bitter smile. "You only said that you and His Excellency Great Magician were natives of Bandit City, but you weren't residents of the city. How could I know that Mildan Village was your hometown?" Steele thought about it and found that she indeed hadn't mentioned this matter to Su Yi, so her anger turned into a smile. "All right, it's my fault. But Su Yi, Mildan Village is my hometown. You have to have Chairman Cruz treat them a bit better during the demolition. You can't mistreat them." "How could I mistreat them?" "The demolition plan that Cruz and I discussed had fully considered the living arrangements of the villagers in the villages that were to be demolished. It would only make their lives better in the future. You can ask His Excellency Great Magician if you don't believe me." Su Yi said in an aggrieved voice. I can testify to this." Great Magician Camilla nodded. Great Magician Camilla nodded. The villagers are all stretching their necks out in anticipation of the demolition. "Why?" Steele was a bit surprised. Mildan Village is a place that everyone has lived in for so long. Why is everyone willing to leave? Could it be that they aren't reluctant to leave at all? Great Magician Camilla looked at Steele. There are even greater benefits if they leave, so why would they be reluctant to leave? According to the contract they signed with the official sent by the City Lord's Manor, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce will find another place to build new houses for them. Building houses. Sue quickly reminded him. Right, building houses. I've seen these houses before. Not only are they beautiful, they're also made of good bricks. Adding in the new technology of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Oh, it's called reinforced concrete. It's very sturdy. It's much better than the broken wooden houses and stone houses in the village. Tell me, will you change it or not? It's really that good? Steele looked at Sue in disbelief. Sue said with a nod, it's just that good. Other than arranging a new place for them to live, our new flyer and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce have promised to give priority to the villagers of the demolished villages to work for our companies. With the wages that our two companies are currently offering to the workers, I think that many of the villagers will think that this is a good thing. Then it must be a very good thing. Steele finally let out a sigh of relief and revealed a smile. She asked Great Magician Camilla, Grandfather, is this the change you were talking about? But I still don't understand. How is this related to your decision to close the Magic Tower and join the Academy of Magic? Of course it's related. Great Magician Camilla let out a sigh. There was a bit of sadness and a bit of nostalgia on his face. When I returned to the village before, although the relatives and villagers were very respectful to me, I knew that they were more afraid of my identity as a great magician. But when I went back a few days ago, I found that although the villagers were still respectful to me, it was different from before. There was a trace of intimacy in the respect. Moreover, when they talked to me, they would always mention that I had a good granddaughter. How is it related to me? Steele said in a surprised voice. Because you have an outstanding boyfriend named Sue and Sue is the new Flyers chairman. Great Magician Camilla said. Sue awkwardly rubbed his nose. Your Excellency, Great Magician, you don't need to praise me like this, right? I'm embarrassed. No need to be embarrassed, because compared to how the villagers praise you, my praise isn't considered much. In their eyes, you become their savior. Great Magician Camilla paused, as if he was recalling what he saw in Mildan Village. Because of the appearance of the new flyer, there are more jobs in Banta City compared to before. Before, the villagers could only work in the fields. Not only were they tired, they also didn't have any income. But now not only is it much easier for them to farm with the agricultural magic machines, they can also find time to do other work. Now the lives of every family in the village are much better than before. Even when I went back, I saw that every family had meat for every meal. It can be said that this is all thanks to you, Sue. Sue really was a bit embarrassed this time, as he said with a dry laugh. Your Excellency, Great Magician, you really are praising me too much. I just did what I wanted to do, and the results were just natural. I didn't think that much. But the villagers' lives improved because of what you did. Isn't that a fact? Great Magician Camilla said with a serious look. Great Magician Camilla said with a serious look. Not only Mildan Village, I've also gone to the surrounding villages, and everyone's lives have improved. As long as you aren't lazy, everyone can live a much better life than before. This change is just too big. Sue thought about it before saying with a nod, Yes, Your Excellency, Great Magician, this is the power of industry that I mentioned before. Developing industry can greatly increase productivity, which will naturally increase people's quality of life. All of this is a natural result. It isn't strange at all. Great Magician Camilla gave a sigh. I didn't understand what you meant before. But after seeing the village this time, I have to admit that you were right before. We magicians study magic all day, but the magic we develop only has destructive power and can't help people's lives at all. But you used magic to develop the magic machine industry, changing the lives of many people in Banta City in such a short period of time. Compared to this, I really am useless as a great magician. You can't say it like this. He quickly comforted him. Your Excellency, great magician, many of the magic machines our company has developed are related to you. How can you say that you're useless? If I focused on my research, I would obtain even more results. Great magician Camilla honestly said. Great magician Camilla seriously said, so after coming back from Mildan village, I seriously considered it for 2 days and decided that from now on, I would focus on researching magic arrays related to magic machines. You're right. Magicians aren't just killing machines. They can also improve people's lives. But grandfather, you don't need to close the magic tower and join the Academy of Magic, right? Steele couldn't help asking. Even if you keep it like this, you can still focus on researching magic machines, right? Great magician Camilla revealed a smile as he looked at Sue with a gaze of deep meaning. Steele, you don't understand what I mean, but I think that this kid definitely does. Sue looked at Steele, who was looking at him with an unconvinced gaze, and said with a faint smile, right, of course I understand. Actually, Steele, you should also understand because His Excellency Great Magician's choice is simply to pursue advertising. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.